Good afternoon, and welcome to our special program, a special airing of the Nation Watch for today, Saturday, the 25th of June, 2022. My name is Randolph Critchell. I want to say thank you very much to all of you who are joining us right now. Thank you very much for joining the program. This afternoon, it's a marathon program, so we're going to be going up to 8 p.m. this evening. So grab your coffee, grab your popcorn, because it's going to be interesting. We're going to be speaking with a number of persons this afternoon. I'm going to be with you up until 7 o'clock, and then we'll be handing you over to Mr. Elson Lowe, who will take you from 7 to 8. And we're hoping that you stay with us, and we're hoping that you share the live stream this afternoon. It is Nation Watch, a special Saturday afternoon program, marathon program, where we will be discussing a number of issues. Joining us this afternoon, we'll have the chairman of the PNCR, Mr. Sherwin Holder, MP. We'll have MP Don Hastings Williams. We'll be joined by regional chairman for region number 10, Darren Adams. Will be joined by regional vice chairman for region number 4, Samuel Sandy. We'll also be joined by the deputy mayor, Mr. Alfred Mentor. All of those persons will be coming in. We'll be hearing from them. Along with that, we'll be airing for you, for those persons who missed it, we'll be airing for you some of the presentations from the People's Parliament, which was held at the Stabroek Square last night. We know some of you were out there, and you know you're affected by the rain, and some of you couldn't make it. So we'll be showing you those presentations. MP Ganesh Maipal, we had MP Dion Ryan. We had a number of other MPs out there, and we'll be bringing them to you. So take your seats, ensure that you have your pot bubbling. We know if you're cooking late this afternoon, just put on the program and you can listen to it in the kitchen. My name is Randolph Critchell, as I said, and I'll be your host for the next 3 hours. It's a marathon program this afternoon, so we'll be bringing all the information to you. So we're going to, of course, get everything together. We give you an opportunity to share the live stream. Before we come back with our program and start properly. Let me take this opportunity to extend condolences to the family and friends of MP Natasha Singh Lewis, who lost her husband. His funeral was today. So on behalf of the People's National Congress Reform and the entire APNU AFC family, we want to extend our deepest and heartfelt condolences and sympathies to the family of MP Natasha Singh Lewis, who lost her husband, Mr. John Lewis, recently and was laid to rest today. So, of course, our thoughts and prayers are with her family and her friends and the friends of Mr. John Lewis. So we just wanted to ensure that we say that our thoughts and prayers are with him. As we move on from that, folks, we're going to be going to a quick break, and we give you an opportunity right now to share the live stream. Share the live stream with your friends and family, because we are going to be going for a while. I have some energy drink in the studios because we're going to be going for a while. So share the live stream with your friends. As you do that, also tell us where you're joining us from. Get into the comment sections. Tell us where you're joining us from. Say, okay, and let me say this, folks, for those persons who missed me, I know I was on the other night, and persons say, Randy, where were you? We wanted to know what happened. I am okay. I was on a little, sabbatical. It was a little hiatus, but now I'm back and I'm raring to go. I'm ready to go. I will be on more often than not. The regular Rush program will be back on Sunday evenings at 8 when I start back in July. But You'll be seeing me more often than not. I'm happy to be back. Of course, we have lots of work to do. We have lots of information to get to you, lots of unpacking to do. So we will be here bringing you the credible and valid information. So share the live stream, folks. Tell your friends and family that Nation Watch Marathon program is on this afternoon into tonight. As we get ready to do that, we'll run our intro, share the live stream, let us know where you're joining us from, and we'll be right back. Thank you very much for staying with us. Of course, you're tuned to the live marathon program, live broadcast of A Nation Watch. Thank you very much to those persons joining us on Facebook, all our Facebook channels, all our Facebook pages, our MPs pages, the main pages, APNU, AFC, PNCR, APNU, Guyana. All of you looking at us there, thank you very much, and continue to share the live stream. Those persons who are viewing us on YouTube, thank you very much for subscribing. Remember, now this is important, folks. If you subscribe, you'll get notifications when we are on. So it is important that you hit that little bell. When you subscribe, you go and you hit that little notification bell, so you get all the notifications letting you know that we are on and we are ready to share with you the credible and valid information every day. A number of programs, of course, we have an entire range of programs from MP Coretta MacDonald, MP Nima Flug-Bess. We have Elson Lowe on. So all week there's programming to keep you informed as to what is happening. Now, remember to subscribe when you're on YouTube. If you're on Facebook, like the page and follow the page, and you get notifications so when we are on. Right. So let us get into it now. Last evening we had People's Parliament. People's Parliament, of course, this was something started by the APNU AFC recently, where we take the Parliament to the people. We know the attempts by the PPP to stymie the voices of the opposition members of Parliament. Things that they're trying to highlight in Parliament. First of all, they take their own time before they actually call sitting of Parliament. So the APNU AFC, in an attempt to ensure that you know what is happening out there, decided that they will be taking parliamentarians, our MPs, to you. At Stabroek Market Square, we'll be having more of these in the coming days and the coming months. So look out for it if you're at the Stabroek Market Square anytime. Stop in and listen to your MPs, listen to the plans and programs and what they're doing to fight on your behalf. So we're going to start the ball rolling by showing you one of the presentations of the People's Parliament. Let me just ensure that I get right to know who we're starting with. Right. We're going to be getting the ball rolling with Mr. Ganesh Maipal, MP and Shadow Minister of Local Government and Regional Affairs, Mr. Ganesh Maipal, starting the ball rolling, opening the baton there. So, of course, we'll be showing you more of these throughout the entire program. So let's start with Mr. Ganesh Maipal at the People's Parliament at Stabroek last evening. Folks, forgive us. We're having a bit of technical difficulties, but we are going to be fixing it and coming back to you with Mr. Ganesh Maipal's presentation. So we give you an opportunity, of course, to share the live stream. We'll be talking to a number of MPs, and we're hearing from a number of MPs. If our technical team, they will indicate when they're ready with the presentation, or we'll be going back to that People's Parliament. Let's go. I think we have that queued up right now. Let's hear from Mr. Ganesh Maipal.
Somebody who I say will come and give you his strong bit. No other than Ganesh Maipal.
Good night, Stabrook Square. I want you to know the APNU AFC is alive and strong. And we will stay alive and strong for the people of this country. We know definitively that you miss us in government. And I want to tell you or remind you that we were cheated out of government, not defeated. It is necessary for me to remind each and every one of you that in elections 2020, there were 49 ballot boxes that had no statutory documents to verify the votes in those boxes. There were a number of people who are recorded as dead at GRO, but on the official list of electors, their names were ticked off as voted. There were a number of people who migrated from this country and did not return on or before March 2nd, 2020, but their names were ticked off as voted. We had a number of missing poll books, a number of oaths of identity missing, and a series of irregularities, anomalies, and abnormalities. So the government that is squatting in office is doing so illegally, and they are illegitimate. The will of the people is not what is reflected in our government. And we must stand united and strong against this barbaric administration. Comrades, Guyana was on a path of good governance under the APNU AFC. And we were heading in a direction to build everybody solidly, make you empowered. We were on a path to ensure that you are as solid as a rock. But the People's Progressive Party returned, and they are trying to give us what we will term here as handouts. And it is like if they are making us into a hamper nation. Now I want to tell you, is me and you money by the hamper? So when they bring it, collect it. But let them know you don't want them there. Let them know that you don't want them because they are not protecting you and your interests. They are not protecting your children and your grandchildren. They are not giving you a safe Guyana. And you want a safe Guyana. You want a Guyana where the police force must focus on crime, and they must deliver service and protection to the people of this land. You don't want a police force that is going to take instructions from Lazy Robinson then, or you don't want a police force where a single phone call can be made and you see two of them trailing Aubrey Norton, the leader of the People's National Congress Reform, We want a professional police force. And to all the police officers who are out here, I know that all you are doing is following instructions to protect your job. You are following instructions because you don't want to lose your daily bread. But let me say to you officers, let me say to you police officers, have no fear. When the AP and UAFC returns to office, we will continue to make you professionals. And you will continue to deliver your service to this nation and lift your heads high as you serve and protect all of Guyana. Now let me address this issue with Sue. You know, I heard the other night that if you don't know what to do, just call on Sue. He will get you through. So if you don't know what to do, what you got to do? Call on Sue. He will get you through. Now when you look at that video, when you look at that interview that Barrett Jagdeo had with Vice News, and you see the release that Vice News put out, you hear that Jagdeo said that Sue handles all the agreements. Are you not hear that? Sue handles all the agreements. Now that sparked a plug in my head. Who is Sue? Since when does our Constitution and our procedure in terms of good governance, transparency, and accountability allow someone like Sue to handle all the agreements? Since when does our land allow that? In order for Sue to handle all the agreements, when it comes to investment in Guyana, then Sue got a big government position. Is Sue the CEO of Sue Invest? And that is why Go Invest is not doing its job? So what is Peter Ramsarup doing there? I thought it was Go Invest that had to handle all the arrangements and agreements. But Jagdeo said, no, it's Sue. And Jagdeo invited Sue into his house, and the Sue. Comrades, if Sue handles all the agreements, then I want Barrett Jagdeo and the People's Progressive Party to tell me and tell Guyana what position did Sue hold in the government for him to handle all the agreements. And I want to know how much taxpayers' money is used to pay Sue for him to handle all the agreements. I want to know his salary and his benefits. I want to know if he does get a duty-free concession every now and then. I want to know where is his office located, because there are many of us who wants to go and we want to invest in our country. And we want Sue to handle all the agreements. So Jagdeo has to come clean with us. Let us not be distracted by what he is saying in the public domain, that at his most unguarded moment nothing came out. A lot came out. A lot came out. What that showed us and confirmed is that Jagdeo is involved in corruption. He is involved in skullduggery, and he is involved in entertaining his friends and family and cronies to deal with resources belonging to our dear land. Now, you know something, you hear what they say, Sue missing. So Sue missing now, so that means that the job he went doing got a vacancy. Y'all apply. Y'all apply. Somebody got to get a work to handle all the arrangements and agreements. Y'all apply, there's a vacancy because Sue missing. But you know what I am more concerned about? The safety of Sue. Because if Sue was such a high-ranking official of the government to handle all the agreements and he now gone missing, and Jagdeo has the state apparatus at his disposal and can't find Sue, then we got to worry, where is Sue? And we already know how they abuse the state operations. We know how they abuse the Guyana Police Force and give them instructions. We saw that 2 police officers were trailing the leader of the People's National Congress Reform and the leader of the opposition, Aubrey Norton. So we want to know, where is Sue? We got to know where is Sue, because Sue has a life. Sue has a family. And if they say Sue missing, we got to know where Sue there. Comrades, I say to you tonight, do not be distracted by the People's Progressive Party and distraction politics. All of these handouts that they give out, all of these cash grants, and this COI into the elections, all of that is distraction politics from the bigger picture. The bigger picture has to do with the level of corruption in Guyana. And don't worry with the COI. This COI is what you call wasting taxpayers' money. There are 2 petitions, elections petitions, that are in the courts. And those petitions are what needs to bring out the truth about elections 2020. And that is what the PPP don't want us to know. They frighten them petition bad. Now, if the PPP believe that they win the election fair and square, and if they believe that they were the rightful people that Guyana wanted, well, allow the petition to go through, man. Let me see what happen. Why you got Nandalal fighting and fighting and fighting, and there's so many other important issues to deal with. But they want Nandalal to focus on the petition because they don't want these petitions to be heard. So I'm saying to you, comrades, don't be distracted by the COI, Commission of Inquiry. Whenever the PPP ship is sinking, they rely on distraction politics. In 2005, just before the 2006 election, they said they're going to have a COI into Walter Rodney's death. And they want to know who killed Walter Rodney. And the PNC supported and instantly supported in the National Assembly an independent COI into the death of Walter Rodney. It was 2005. And the motion that was passed in Parliament called for an immediate independent commission of inquiry. And you know the PPP never hold a commission of inquiry. Till 2014, just before the 2015 election, then you get the COI. Distraction politics. The PPP is good with distraction politics. Do not be distracted by them, my friends. And I see that the weather is upon us. But whether the sun shine or the rain fall, we kick in the PPP out of government. Because they stole their way into there, and we want no thief man for holy resources. They got to get out. So I say to you, my brothers, I say to you, my sisters, I say to you, comrades of Guyana, this beautiful land, hold strong with us. A new list of electors we have to have, and we have to go back to the polls, and we will put the PPP out of the doors. With that, I say to you, thank you, and I refuse to cover myself with a red umbrella. And I say to you, stay strong. We ain't dealing with red. Red is PPP. And we don't want that. We want the APNU, UAFC back in government. And the red that represents the PPP, that signals the blood that was shed under them, we don't want them there. We don't want them there. And with that, I thank you, my dear comrades, for listening to me and ensure that we hold strong. The coalition is coming back. Thank you.
Hold strong, the coalition is coming back. Ganesh Maipal, their MP, of course, firing up the crowd there last night at the People's Parliament out at Stabrook Market. Folks, we thank you, of course, for joining us. We have lots more to come in our marathon program this evening, this afternoon into this evening. I want you to let us know where you're joining us from, folks. Get in the comment section. Let me see if I can find a few names in the comment section. Mr. Dodson is saying, well said, brother. Thank you very much, Ganesh Maipal. Where are you joining us from, folks? Let us know. We are here. We want to know. We want to talk with you. We want to know what you are saying and where you're joining us from. Barbados in the house. New York, of course, our folks over there in the United States of America, all of our friends and family in the diaspora, we want to say thank you and continue to support. Continue to support. As Ganesh said, folks, as Ganesh said, and he pointed out that we will be kicking the PPP out. Let us hold strong. Let us not be distracted by the distraction politics. And they are very, very good at it. You're going to hear a whole lot of things about this COI. A whole lot of things in the coming weeks about the COI. Very conveniently, the COI is now going to start after 2 years when the petition is about to start. When you were supposed to now hear the petition moving forward at the CCJ. So very conveniently, and they're going to try their best, folks, to keep it in the news. Oh, this is coming out of the COI. Note, folks, they ran around in 2020 and in 2021 charging people with all manner of things, elections related. Yet, not one person, any of those charges sticking to them. A whole lot of bogus claims just to continue playing this propaganda distraction game. We will not be distracted, folks. We will not be distracted. We will keep our eyes on the prize. And it's getting that illegally installed government out of power. And let us continue to move forward with the progress that we saw post-2020, prior to 2020. So, folks, we'll continue to watch, of course, Ganesh Maipal there. We have a number of other MPs, including the Honorable Cathy Hughes, to come up, and we'll be showing her presentation at the People's Parliament. But we want to shift focus right now to a more local topic. We're going to be talking about the City Council and what is happening at the municipality. And we're going to be joined, of course, lots of things happening there, folks. Lots of things to be unpacked and discussed about what is happening there. I see lots of rehabilitation work being done on City Hall and a number of reasons why the City Council is in the news. Of course, there is a long-running contention, if I can call it that, but it's a vindictive nature of the PPP that has seen them try to stymie the work of the City Council. It is unimaginable. This is the capital city, and let me say this before I bring in our guests. We're going to be talking with the Deputy Mayor, Mr. Alfred Mentor, in just a few, but let me say a few words. I find it appalling that a government would be in power, illegally, installed, and there is a capital city. This capital city, of course, is not controlled by the ruling government. The APNU-AFC has a majority on the City Council. And because of that, folks, you have seen the level of pettiness and the vindictive nature of the PPP in terms of funding their constitutional duty to ensure that the City Council runs effectively and efficiently. It requires funding. It has always required funding from central government. and they have done their level best to try to stifle the city council, and in turn stifling the country, because the capital city is a representation of you. When investors come, they come and they look at the capital city and they wonder what's happening. But you see, the thing is, they want the public to believe that the APNU-AFC is not doing a good job, and they will try their best, even if, the old people call it, cutting off your nose to spite your face. So, folks, we have serious problems with Minister Damlal. We have serious problems with the PPP government, and the city council has been fighting. And let us bring in Mr. Mentor, the deputy mayor, to let us discuss what has been happening with that fight. Mr. Mentor, good afternoon and welcome to our special Nation Watch program this afternoon. Yes.
Good afternoon to you, and good afternoon to the other viewers that are watching this program this afternoon. And
yes,
I thank you for the invite.
Right. We're happy to have you here this evening to go through with us and unpack some of the issues being faced there at the City Council. I know yourself and His Worship, the Mayor, Ubaraj Ryan, you guys have been working over the past few years to ensure that the city is run in a particular manner and we have progress. But I'll allow you to give us a general idea of what is happening there at the City Council. Let us start with what we can see. I see there's some rehabilitation work happening. What is happening with that?
Yes, the council, in collaboration with central government itself, started the rehabilitation of the City Hall building, which has been this has happened through successive governments, either a PPP government, APNU-AFC government, and now back to a PPP government itself. So it's a building it's a landmark building in Guyana, but it has been in terrible disrepair for a number of years. So we as a council would have identified that this building must be rehabilitated, and national government itself, central government, has taken the cue to be able to look at this and to make good on this renovation and this rehabilitation, because this iconic building in itself is one of those buildings that is looked upon as a landmark building in Guyana and the capital city, and we can't be in tatters as a capital city. If you look at the building alone, it tells the story of what is actually happening in the city. So again, we are very grateful for that formal collaboration with government to be able to deal with this issue. We on our own, with a small part of a contribution from central government, we are also doing an administrative building next to in the compound as well. So there's a lot of development happening at the level of the council, so that we could bring better service to the people and to be able to handle matters in a more comfortable way for ourselves as part of council and part of staff, and bring a better service to the citizenry as well.
Yeah, and I'm happy that you brought up this idea. These historic buildings are essentially landmarks, and they should be restored, and they should be treasured. Now, for me, the move towards modernization has seen a lot of our Gothic architecture being torn down and replaced by, the more modern buildings. And this is something that we have to be careful about. And I'm happy to see that rehabilitation works. So just to ensure that people understand, the building is being restored, and so the design is not being changed.
No, because of it's a national trust building.
Yes.
We cannot change the actual architecture. Ideally, with the kind of money that is being spent on it, I think it's over $800 million. Anyone would have taken $800 million and built over a brand new building. But I mean, because National Trust is a national trust building, we have a responsibility to ensure that we made that architecture and to keep it as one of those Gothic building that you mentioned.
Yes. Well, we're happy for that. And of course, we'll be very, very happy when we walk downtown and you see the City Hall restored to its former glory. Deputy Mayor, I know we have some other issues we have to get into, and let's jump right into that. The work of the City Council largely depends on, and you guys have to sort of walk the line of the law. And the Local Government Act, of course, that is the overarching piece of legislature. Now, I want you to sort of to help our viewers understand some of the difficulties faced by City Council as it relates to how the law allows you or doesn't allow you to do certain things. If you can get into that for us.
Yes, thank you for that question.
Mhm.
The act itself, we have the act, which is the act that we are governed by, Section 2801, which is part of the it's national laws or bylaws that we have to use, and it's basically the Bible of the council.
Yes.
While it is the Bible of the council, the Constitution speaks to local democracy. It speaks of local democracy under Part 1, Chapter 7, and Article 71, and other articles of the Constitution. But while it speaks to all of that, those kind of different things, there are a number of things that happen that is given to us as autonomy in the Act, that are not necessarily devolved to us, where we have that autonomy and that authority. Yes, we took the opportunity to regulate and to do a number of different things, but a number of things, while the local government, we have 3 tiers of government, as we all know. We have the national government, we have regional government, and we have local government. A number of those things hasn't been really and truly devolved or decentralized, so to speak. So if it's not decentralized, they're not able to really and truly function as a local, I would want to say, in the overall governance system of in government in general. It speaks of us as an administrative authority. That's the word I was looking for. As an administrative authority. And if you're an administrative authority with certain powers vested in you, you should be able to do your work and do it freely. And we all know how globally people frown on these kind of things, where local authorities are not able to function the way they should. So there are a number of things that as I said, wasn't devolved, but it appeared to be a deconcentrated role that we have, where central government themselves intervene and intermingle in stuff that they ought not to. But again, in this unitary republic that we have, where most of the powers are vested in the central government, because whoever wins government wins the power, and they allow that power to be disseminated. We have certain powers established with us at the level of the council and at the level of the Constitution, which has vested those powers with us. But again, there's some limitations as to what, how far central government wants you to go, and how far they would like you to, what they would like you to achieve. So at the end of the day, it's a number of things I think we need to clarify, and a number of roles that central government has to clarify with us as a local authority to be able to fine-tune this relationship, and for them to give us our due, while we also are free to function and to deal with a number of things in the various capacities that we have to function as councillors and overall as a municipality.
Yeah. Let me dig in on or dive in one specific area, and this has been a contentious issue not only at the city council but at the regional level and other municipalities around the country. this issue of the power of hiring, your hiring power of these local organizations, as it is constituted right now, uh, a lot, I don't know, you can correct me here, but a
Yes.
large percentage of your staff, they have to come through central government, whether I think it's the local government commission, local government who controls that. This has been cited by many who know, those people who study this thing, as part of the problem. And let me give an example, and you can tell me if a similar thing is happening at the city council. At the regional level, the Regional Democratic Council, the RDC, and the chairman, who are elected members, elected leaders of the region, are not able to hire specific and key staff for their region. So what happens is that the people who are controlling power at Central send specific staff, and those staff are basically acting on the instructions, the political instructions of those persons at central government. I know there are some issues of this. Do you believe that is part of the law that needs amending, that allows the party that is controlling the region or the city or the council to be able to choose their staff, so that the staff is not taking instructions from central government and stymieing the work that the city council is doing? Your thoughts?
Well, if you look at the overall local government system in itself, and you understand the role of, I will come to the municipality in relation to the local government commission shortly.
Yes.
But you asked a question in relation to the regional, at the regional level. Yes, there's national, there's regional, and there's local. But what I do understand from my readings on regional government or regional administration is that funding for the regional administration comes from central government.
Yes.
So overall, the central government has responsibility for the monies and responsibility for their budget and responsibility for whatever happens at the various levels. Even though the APNU AFC might have won certain regions, the financial budget for the region comes from central government. So at the end of the day, they are the diktat of where, how the monies go. Obviously, the region itself ought to put together their, check their areas and lobby for whatever funding they need to have in relation to these various areas but at the end of the day, the REOs that are chosen by the various regions are chosen by the minister himself. And naturally, who's the REO? REO is like a chief executive officer of any organization. Yeah. Person is the person who a lot of things are channeled through, and so on and so forth. So there's a number of things that need to be changed in relation to that. But I'm not sure how. You see, we had an opportunity while we were in government within the last 5 years to at least have adjusted that. Because, and I always say, whenever you're in government, you try to fix things. So if you God forbid, you're out of government, you're able to
come back to bite you.
Yeah, you're able to be comfortable with things in or out of government. So we had an opportunity as a government to fix that. Similarly, I really come to know something at the level of the local government commission and the city, where we are the ones who place the local government commission or allow for the first local government commission to come into being. That local government commission came into being, I believe, in 2017. But the act was passed under the previous PPP government in 2013. We brought everything from that into when we installed this commission, when the government installed that commission, they install that commission with every single aspect of that act. Where there were flawed areas, there were a number of things that happened. And we should have amended it again to suit where you have situations where we ourselves at the level of the council, the local government commission is literally micromanaging from the level of a chairperson or a cleaner all the way up to an officer. So, and they are seeking to employ those persons. Not only employ, they want to be involved in employment. They want to be involved in the discipline of those persons. They want to be involved in all aspects of the employment of those persons. And they do not micromanage on a day-to-day basis at the level of these councils. We as councillors, elected by the people or the citizenry of the various constituencies of Georgetown, were placed there to be able to do that, to be able to manage, to be able to address a number of issues, we should have been able to discipline. We're not saying that we will be high-handed about something and so on, but even if that is so, there should be an opportunity for those persons to appeal to the local government commission if we act outside of the ambit of our laws. But not for them to have to be the judge, the jury, the executioner. And we as a council, with the ratepayers' monies, we have to pay those persons. But they decide, if, let's say, recently we've had issues where we've had some absenteeism at the level of the sluices. A number of persons, we want to discipline those persons, deal with matters, even recommend if 1, 2, 3 scenarios where you've erred, we could decide if you should be recommended to be fired because you're not competent enough, whatever challenges you have. We cannot do that. We have to now send that to the local government commission. We cannot act, but we as a council, through the taxpayers' monies, we have to pay those persons. So we are getting sometimes piss-poor services from persons, but we cannot do nothing about it because we gotta depend on some local government commission. I don't believe the local government commission job was to be one to micromanage and macromanage everything within the confines of not only the main city council or the city of Georgetown, all 70 other NDCs and the 10 municipalities that they have. It's impossible. They don't not have the resources to do that. And as elected officials, which we happen to be, our job is being, we have a collision of the role of the local government commission as elected officials over somebody who was selected. So it's a tremendous challenge. And I feel that we are currently asking for a constitutional review of this particular matter and a constitutional review of the article, I think Article 7A, which gives us autonomy and give us the authority and which the power has been devolved to us over the act or the Article 8A of the Constitution. So there's a real collision of these issues, and it speaks of there's a word I think the lawyer used in dealing with this, which he speaks of irreconcilable inconsistency. So if there's an irreconcilable inconsistency, the people before where the law was for, which is the councils, I think the law provides for those persons to benefit from such a case.
Yeah, there's definitely a need for reform, and we're happy that you're bringing this to light because it's good for us to break down these issues like this because sometimes we see it in the newspapers and you don't really get to put it in context. But the council is obviously struggling with this. Now, Deputy Mayor, Guyana has always had a system of commissions, whether it be the Teaching Service Commission, Police Service Commission, these, and they for the most part, function as you suggested in their capacity and their role, and they don't overstep their role. We've seen what happened with the Police Service Commission, and I think there are lots of issues with the Local Government Commission also, as you highlighted. And maybe it is time for us to look at whether or not these commissions are working or they're working toward, or they're working to stymie the progress of the institutions that they overlook. Now, let us shift a little bit to some other issues or some other challenges of the council. The council is also responsible for rates and taxes in the city, and we've had some very high-profile cases of taxes not being paid. What is the general outlook? What is happening at the region as it relates to payment of rates and taxes?
I'm glad you asked that question, actually. Some months ago, I believe, I think it's either last year, or yes, I think it would have been last year. I think Mr. Freddie Kassoun, Freddie Kassoun is one of those columnists that highlight a number of different things. He highlights a number of ills in society and things that, that he feels should be corrected. He had an article out on the same issue as it relates to rates and taxes, and he was saying that he was of the belief that all these thousands of buildings, skyscraper buildings that are going up within the city of Georgetown, the city itself should be awash with a lot of monies to be able to do the various things we need to do. We function on a certain budget to be able to bring about the kind of changes, and our rates and taxes is the biggest set of monies we receive. We have monies from markets, we have monies from other leases and rentals that we collect, and other fees from plans and so on and so forth. But we collect about 65%, or no, 50 to 60% of our taxes from rates and taxes, and 40% of persons don't pay. So you have 60% of the people paying for 40%, or the other 40% to function. So if we were able to function with collecting at least 80% or as much as possible of those taxes, we'll be able to do a more fabulous job within the city. The challenge we have with those kind of situations is that a number of buildings, as Mr. Freddie Kassoun alluded to, have not been paying. And for them to pay, and for them to put certain things in place, the challenge we've had is that we haven't had a revaluation of properties for 26 years. I think this is since 1996, where the last revaluation has happened in the city. We've even had the issue with the court cases we had with the Gifford Mall.
Yes.
That we had an issue where the city was not, it was extended up to wherever, but the law said that he's part of the city and that he has to request valuation. There's a whole host of things. I don't want to get into all of that at this time. But the reality is that we have to try and bring those persons under the umbrella, bring the other 40% under the umbrella by whatever means necessary. So one of the things we would have done recently, at least, because those persons' taxes were kept accumulating and they've been gaining interest, we've decided within the last 4 to 5 months, we've held an amnesty so we could have a negotiation of those persons who have been delinquent for a number of years, to bring them back under the umbrella. And we've met with a number of persons. I actually chair that committee that deals with the amnesty, to be able to look at how we could get those persons back on and get them paying, be able to reap significant interest and get those persons back to pay their principal, so that we can move the 60% of the persons that have been paying to maybe 70, and then maybe whatever. So, and then we'll look at some other avenues as to how we could get around dealing with those issues, and maybe trying to persuade central government themselves to accept that we need to have a national revaluation of properties, especially in the city of Georgetown. But I know this has been a tricky issue for all governments, because all governments look at it as a point. Why are we doing it? They mash some toes in dealing with these kind of issues. But once and for all, somebody got to take the big stick approach, and somebody got to take an approach where everybody must be able to pay their fair share and to pay their fair share and not be getting away with it and having 60% of the people pay for the expenses of the city and 40% of the persons are not necessarily getting away freely, but we'll have to move to court either by part execution to be able to put them under the hammer, and maybe only then they will then accept that we are serious about their rates and taxes.
Yeah. Deputy Mayor, for those persons who are joining us, we are speaking with the Deputy Mayor of Georgetown, Mr. Alfred Mentor, trying to bring light to some of the issues that they're facing there at the City Council. We have one more issue I want to address with the Deputy Mayor before we let him go this afternoon. Of course, we thank him for being here with us. Now, let us talk about the way forward, Deputy Mayor. I note that you recently the city had a meeting with the Prime Minister, Mr. Mark Phillips. And, I'm hoping that the way forward was charted, the course was charted in that meeting. I don't know if you want to let us know what was the outcome of that meeting and whether or not you believe that there is a chance for success given the talks with the Prime Minister. And will we see a change of how things are done in the city and the relationship between central government and the City Council?
Like I alluded to earlier, and I said that local government, or us as an administrative authority, is a subset of the central government itself. So
yes.
while the central government, in the sense of the Honorable Prime Minister invited us to a meeting to discuss matters of the state, discuss matters of the city, discuss matters of administration at our level, he has all rights to, because when you look at it, we are an extension of the state doing a job that was decentralized to us or devolved to us as an administrative authority to be able to do stuff. So if something he's not happy with something, it's not something that he or any other minister should go public and try to, like I've seen Mr. Minister Mustafa has been using the media many times, calling out different things. If twist it or turn it, if we fall down in some area, we err in some areas. It's not errors where the council making those errors, administration making those errors. But again, I spoke to you about discipline. How could we discipline them? How could we address those things? How we could deal with it on the spot? We have a challenge. So at the end of the day, the central government, in the case of the Prime Minister, reaching out to us after going public on a particular issue, is not something that we need to wash our dirty linen in public ever so often on these issues. These issues could be handled in a more professional manner. So after, I think the mayor would have responded quite eloquently in dealing with those issues on a number of occasions with a couple of letters. I think the Honorable Prime Minister realized that, hey, it doesn't make sense us having this kind of banter in public. Let us have a face-to-face and address a number of issues. And he was pleasantly surprised. He obviously realized that we were on top of our game. We were on top of it as an administration. We were on top of it as it relates to the level of the administration, where the challenges we had based on his identifying certain things. Our engineers, realizing persons did not turn up. They had systems put in place, but when the government would have sent their persons to look, maybe the person wasn't there at a particular time, but we were on top of those situations and we're dealing with it. And was really, the meeting itself was one to resolve and to rectify some of the things that he otherwise thought that we were not honoring. And more than likely, out of that meeting, everything went well, and we were able to clarify all of the issues that he had concerns with.
Yeah. Deputy Mayor, Mr. Mentor, I want to say thank you very much for joining us this afternoon on our program. It is always good to get the views of those persons there in the front lines. We know we don't necessarily always appreciate the difficult circumstances that you guys have to work on, especially in a very public way, in contention with central government. So we thank you for bringing light to these issues. We hope that you continue to work as we all are trying to build a better Guyana, and of course, starting from your level, working on ensuring that the city is the best it can be. Thank you very much for joining us this evening.
Thank you.
Right. That, folks, was the Deputy Mayor of Georgetown, Mr. Alfred Mentor, bringing to you their thoughts and opinions on what is happening there and some inside information as to what is happening there at the City Council. Of course, they had a meeting recently with the Prime Minister, and, you know, as he said there, this very public dispute that you're having with central government. Folks, the reality is that we have a vindictive government in place, and they are trying to stymie the work of not only the City Council. If I may let you know, there is lots of talk, lots of public propaganda about one Guyana. That's the reality. This is the facade, the painting that they want to paint, the picture that they want to paint, that everything is honky-dory in Guyana, that this government is somehow spreading their wings wide and they're holding and hugging everybody. But the reality on the ground is that certain communities are being neglected. Certain NDCs are being neglected. Certain RDCs are being neglected. Certain municipalities are being neglected. Right? And we know them. Region 7, controlled by the APNU-AFC. Region number 4, controlled by the APNU-AFC. Region number 9, Georgetown. All of these, if you look at them, and if you dig deeper, you go to the NDCs. Let me give you a simple example. You might not know this, but a few months back, the government launched its cleanup efforts, and they gave funds to certain NDCs in region number 4 to, you know, hire some people and pay a few persons in the community to do cleanup work, you know, cleanup. They decided that, you know, this thing that David Granger did when he came in, it looked nice, it's good, we can use it. So they had a cleanup effort, and so the NDCs were given a certain sum of money. At one of the RDC meetings, the question was asked to the REO, because he has to know what is happening. He has to know about the disbursement of funds in the region that he controls. And why is it that NDCs like Haslington Grove, NDCs like Buxton Falls, and those other NDCs that are controlled by the APNU-AFC, why they were not given the cleanup grant, while an NDC right next door was given money? It is that blatant, folks. There is no sugarcoating it or trying to hide it. They basically skip the NDC. So you get money. If you controlled by the APNU-AFC, you don't get money. Whilst that is happening at the lower levels, you have the president running about at every opportunity. Every time he finds a mic in front of him, he finds himself in front of a mic, he shouts one Guyana. But the reality is that what is happening on the ground, it's clear and it's blatant. It's clear and it's blatant. So let's keep our eyes on the prize, folks. Let's keep our eyes on what is really happening in this country. As we move forward in this program, of course, let me go to the comments and ensure that we, you know, shout out to those persons who made their thoughts known in the comment section. Right? Shout out to the people from Barbados. Grenada is in the house. All around the world. Thank you very much for being in the comment section. You can share the live stream, folks. Share the live stream. you are tuned to our live marathon program for this Saturday afternoon. We'll be going all the way up to 8 o'clock. So stay tuned, folks. We have lots more to come, lots more to come. Let us know where you're joining us from in the comment section. Thank you very much. Shout out to Miss Taz Thomas, always in the comment section, defending the APNU AFC. We're happy to have those social media, Facebook warriors who are always there, defending and having a good fight with the trenches. Folks, let us continue. Right? Brooklyn is in the house. Brenda, thank you very much for tuning in. Brooklyn is in the house. Thank you very much for tuning in. Let us know where you're joining us from. Let's get a shout out. Brooklyn, thank you very much. Folks, we are going to go back to the People's Parliament. We're going to go back to the People's Parliament, which was held last night at the Starbrook Square. We're going to be bringing you the presentation of Miss Cathy Hughes, Honorable Minister, of course, Honorable Member of Parliament, former Minister of Public Telecommunications. I have a big problem with the PPP's what they did with the Ministry of Public Telecommunications. And we're going to talk about that after we come back from former Minister Cathy Hughes' presentation. So we're going to take that right now and we're going to come back. Stay tuned with our marathon program. Let's bring in Cathy and then we'll be back for more discussions.
Next person I'll call to the mic is no other, an honorable young woman as well, the chairman of the Alliance for Change and the Member of Parliament, Honorable Cathy Hughes.
All right, well, I'm glad finally we got a little female voice in this meeting tonight, right? Where are the ladies? Can I say good night to the ladies first? You're here, right? Of course. I salute all my sisters because these dreaded times, dreaded for all of us, but especially for the women. Because, we got to take a little bit of money, carry it to the market, carry it to the shop and make it stretch, right? And I want to big up also all the men here tonight because together we're working towards getting out of this very difficult situation we're in. I was thinking about it just the other day and I can talk fast because I know the rain coming down. But I was thinking the other day, imagine it's only 2 years. 2 years. We didn't even get to 2 years yet. Got 2 more months to go. 2 years of the PPP, and could you imagine that there could be so much disaster, so many things wrong in this short space of time? It's almost as if everybody, including the lords and the gods, realize that, this is not the government for the people of Guyana. And one of the things I want you to do is we got to remember that we got to think for ourselves. Because when the Vice President could come and say, after we all see that interview, we all see his shock when he get asked some of them questions, but he really think he could tell us that he feel vindicated? What nonsense is that? Like he think we shubidi. So we got to make sure that we listen and we look. And one of the things I want to just mention quickly tonight is something called the Public Procurement Commission. Because every time they say they believe in transparency, accountability, proper management of our monies, I want you to remember that for years when the APNU and AFC were in opposition, we kept saying you got to put the Public Procurement Commission in place. Now I want all of y'all to know that the Public Procurement Commission is in our Constitution and is the organization, is the committee that's supposed to look after all them contracts and make sure everything is above board, that nobody doing something underhand, that they ain't got no sue and they ain't got no VP doing the kind of things we seen going on. And In 2016, it was the APNU and AFC that finally formed that committee that should have been formed years ago when the PPP were in government before 2015. They never put it in place. And we put it in place in 2016, and the 4 commissioners were only there for 3 years. And in 2019, it expired. And then, of course, we had the election. So what they did is that they extend 2 of the commissioners. And you all know, from 2020 to now, they ain't got no public procurement commission. So all them contracts, all them things writing, check every day in the papers, there's hundreds of millions of dollars. Most of it US dollars going to this body and that body and this project. Projects that didn't even got a feasibility study. David Patterson made sure that when he started to talk about a new bridge over the Demerara River, and remember where that conversation started. When he started to talk about it, the man made sure he had his feasibility study, his environmental study. He had a soil test. These people now decide they put in the bridge a different place. They ain't got no study. They don't believe in no study. And yet, big money going out. So I am saying to Guyanese tonight, we got to listen. And I want you to use social media for people to know how unhappy you are with how our resources are being spent. It's only the big businesses that had a hard head start that making money and benefiting from this oil, right? Everybody getting a little piece, a little handout, a little 19,000, a little 25,000, one off. Do not forget that in 2019, the APNU AFC moved the minimum wage from $42,000 a month all the way up to $77,000. You hear what I'm saying? So every month since then, you're getting a good $30,000 more every single month on your salary. And your pension, that increase going to be on your pension. That was more than a 77% increase. And what y'all get, what we get recently? A little 7% and 0. You hear what I'm saying to you? These are the things that we have to stop being afraid. You know, we frightened we can get victimized, and it's true, it's happened in this country. We frightened that if we go and protest, we know there's got officers and people coming with a camera and recording you. I know, I stand in a protest line. They got camera here tonight too, but I don't care because this is our country too. And we must get a piece of the share. We must get a piece of the share. So when they think they can give you a one-off 19,000, you should be saying, we must be saying, why are you giving me 19,000? Why are you giving them young people 25,000? When the money we got mean that everybody could get every month at least 100,000. You hear what I said? So don't undersell yourself. When we go and say, oh Lord, thank you, thank you, thank you, I want you to say, why aren't we getting more? Because since they come into office in 2020, we got an increase of racism. All these years we lived together, all of us, we mix up all kind of ways we look. Everybody got a bit of every race in us, all 6 races. And all of a sudden we got all this antagonism. One side getting, another side ain't getting. Right? And we know that. We know that when we see the communities they go to, we know that when every single time they give them money, they got some story. They giving them 19,000, everybody can't get it. You got enough people that say I ain't get. They giving the money the other day when they had the floods. Some of the farmers get, again, a lot of the farmers ain't get. Some get $2 million and they don't even farm. The lady with the chickens ain't even get a 200,000. Now I know we are worried. I know we are scared. But we got to get up and we got to speak up and speak out. And let me tell you, you see the social media? Watch what you say, be respectful, but make sure you let them know. Let them know that they're only there for a little while. And when I tell you about them looking at things back to front, if you know you win fair and square, you would want every single election petition to come. You would want to investigate it. You would want to say, look, we show y'all why y'all up to AFC, why y'all behaving bad. We show you that you win fair and square. But they're not doing that. They're running. Same thing with this program the other day. Like idiots, they're shutting down Showtime, shutting down this place, who can't play it, wherever. They know we got internet. They know that from the morning, the WhatsApp of the program was sharing like wild. So all of we see it. We know all the information is out there. So, my fellow Guyanese, we have to be alert. We got to think for ourselves. And we got to talk to your neighbor, talk to your children so everybody understand what really, oh good, it stopped. Thank you, Jesus. Yes. So we got to speak to our children and everybody and hear. Exactly. There's another thing. I see a lady here that says she waited 23 years to get a piece of land. But now our friends in Barbados can get the land fast. You understand? Now, we go all over the Caribbean. That's not the problem, but you got to make sure your own people are right first. And that is what we're talking about. Okay? So there's a lot to do. I want to say in closing, all of we got children. All of we got grandchildren. Right? You got great-grands. I want you to take some time every day. Encourage them to go to the technical institute. Let them do a little welding job. Let them learn a trade. Because we got to get smart. They're not encouraging you. They're telling you you could go and do it online. Right? There's the scholarships they're showing off. But they ain't giving you no free internet. They ain't giving you no devices that everybody could go and do it. Right? But I'm saying to you, in our communities, we have to focus on education. We got to make sure you take your little grandson or your granddaughter or your child to school. In the night, make sure they sit down with the books for a little hour and go over what they do. Because what is going to happen is what has happened in other parts of the world, like Dubai and those places. When the local people ain't got the skills, it's not a problem. Everybody come from everywhere else and they benefiting. So we have to work on, in this time, when we're preparing to get back in there, we got to make sure you preparing your children. Right? All right. Thank you very much for coming out tonight.
Thank you very much. Of course, that was former Minister of Public Telecommunications, the Honorable Cathy Hughes, Member of Parliament, and of course, she would have been recently elected as the chairperson of the Alliance for Change. Folks, we are moving on with our program, but before we go to MP Ramsrup, I want to dive into something that I mentioned before former Minister Cathy Hughes spoke. Now, former Minister Cathy Hughes was in charge of the Ministry of Public Telecommunications. And I want us to have this conversation. And before we do, let's say good afternoon to all of those persons who are tuned in on all of our platforms, Facebook, YouTube, all over. Share the live stream, folks, share the live stream. Joining, let me just say those persons who said they're joining from Jamaica, British Virgin Islands. Linden is in the house. All over the world. Thank you very much. Let's go, folks. Now, the Ministry of Public Telecommunications was on the pathway of connecting Guyana, providing internet in hinterland communities and, all over. They would have set up over 175 internet hubs around the country. They would have provided internet for schools. They would have distributed laptops and tablets in all of these areas. And I want you to understand, and I say this every time I get an opportunity because I think it's really telling of the type of government that you have in place right now, installed there. This is a government that took over this country, was installed August the 2nd, 2020. We had COVID long before that. Earlier in 2020, we knew that COVID was here. We knew that, what was happening, and we were in the depths of COVID in August, the heart of it. Now, one of the first things that this installed wicked administration did when they came in was to disband the Ministry of Public Telecommunications. Now, why is that significant? Why is that something that we ought to remember? Because it had far-reaching implications for our children and for the state of education in our country. We effectively moved from a face-to-face learning system to one that was primarily a distance learning setup. Students were in their homes, teachers were in their homes. By that simple fact, any rational thinking person would have seen the importance or recognized the importance of the Ministry of Public Telecommunications and the work that was put in and that was being done in that ministry to bring connectivity to rural communities, to ensure that teachers and students are able to connect to the internet. Simply because we had a situation where we had to be home. Now, even after considering all of that, this wicked administration decided that they will disband that ministry. That single act may be responsible for significant learning loss throughout this country. We are yet to significantly quantify the amount of learning loss that we had in this country just because of that singular act by the PPP. There were students, thousands of students, who had no means of connecting with their classes to continue their education from home. And sometimes we just gloss over these issues and it is not given the front page attention that it deserves. But these are significant things. The state of education is worse off because of that singular act. And so what you ended up with was an education system ill-prepared. Priya Manik-Chan in a 2021 report said, listen, we were not prepared. Teachers were home, students were home. There was no preparation. Of course, they're trying to spin it and saying that, the AP and UAFC didn't prepare us for this. But the AP and UAFC left you with a ministry that would have given you the ability to allow students and teachers to connect. The framework for that connectivity was already laid. The foundation was laid. You decided that because it was the APNUAFC's foundation, you are not going to run with it. You're going to leave it to rot like the Durban Park. That is the level of vindictiveness. But it's our students who suffered from 2020 up until now that we're able to go back to face, because the Ministry of Public Telecommunication and that foundation was there, and you decided to leave it. You decided to leave it. Folks, let us not overlook these significant things. What we're going to do right now is that we are going to go to our next video. Right. MP, another MP from the AFC, Mr. Leonarine Ramsarup, formerly known as Ricky Ramsarup, from the east coast of Demerara, and his presentation out there at the People's Parliament last night. We're bringing you those, and after we come back from that, we're going to be joined by MP Don Hastings Williams, the Honorable, who is in the building. Right. And we're going to continue with our marathon. Folks, let's continue to share the live stream. Let's take MP Ramsarup and we'll be right back.
Thank you very much, Comrade Chairman. It's a privilege to be here with you tonight and to speak on behalf of the people of Guyana. I want you to know that I'm not here to represent myself, but I'm here to represent you, because we have our support base, which is over 50% of this Guyanese population. Over 50%. So we are here to represent you. Now, I made a speech last night. I finished late, but I don't want to do that tonight with you. But we have to focus on the real issues in this country. You have to understand the economic pressure that this government is creating on you, so that you will be distracted from what is happening. In 2015, we brought the oil and gas sector in this country. The oil and gas sector, imagine if we did not sign that contract, what would happen to Guyana today? Given the war that's happening with Ukraine and Russia, you can see the economic pressure that is coming on us. The food, the increase of shipping costs, everything, food prices tripled. Comrades, you have to be patient with us. You have to give our young people here a chance, because we're going to be back in office on the next election. We are going to be right back there. So be patient with us. In that oil and gas sector, we have created something called a Natural Resources Fund, because I want to talk about that. It's very important for you to understand what is happening. In that Natural Resources Fund, we had 22 members on an oversight committee. Right now, everybody was upset that we went and upset the parliament and took away the maize, but they didn't understand what we were doing. Let me explain to you what we were doing. And I'll come to our member parliament that they want to suspend because of that. The government removed that 22 people, and let me tell you the makeup of those 22 people. It was the civil society, it was the private sector, it was the regional representation at all the 10 administrative regions of Guyana, it was a religious organization, and the list goes on. 22 people oversight on that committee. Now they replace that with 5 people that has been chaired, and the chairman of that committee is selected by the government of Guyana. Now you know what happened there. So you're going to have the things like sue and so on happening. All right, because they're fully in control of what is being, the money that is being coming in. Now, comrades, the $607 million what we earned in the first year, we have asked them in Parliament where this money is going. Till up to the date, we don't have a single answer to know where this money is spending. They said the money is in the consolidated fund. Now, if the money is there, we said, okay, which project are you spending this money on? They can't answer that neither. But you've seen that they go in and running cash grant here, cash grant there. The cane cutter's getting $250, the fisherman get $150. They said they'll give some to the teachers. They're going to increase the thing. How much person are benefiting from this? The question is that sustainable? So you can see the chaos that they're creating within our economic system in Guyana. They don't have a sense of management and the way to monitor our system. So who's the economic genius? The one that we boast about. The economic genius of this country. There's no economic plan. But they're running around borrowing money and keep pushing pressure on our future generation to come. You must understand that the borrowings, you have seen recently $6.7 billion our reserve went down by. And it's this government has done that because they keep borrowing and keep spending the money without replenishing it because they don't have an answer to that. Let me give you some track records. Because we are talking, I know Sue running things, but I can tell you what Sue running things just now. We have, in the last 23 years, they are blaming us in 5 years in government. In the 23 years, they forget that the government is country 23 years. There is no major infrastructure development happened during the period of time. The last 2 years now in government for them, name me one single project that they are doing, that they implement themselves. Not a single project. Every project that they're doing now is because of the APNU, AFC. Every single one of it. That road to Mabuda will be paving. We had that contract signed already, and the money was delivered here. They said they're going to resurrect back the hydro project. What happened? What happened? It is the manifesto promise. Failed promises. They said they're going to resuscitate the Gaisuku. What happened? What happened? Failed project and promises. Then my friend talked about those failed projects, but we'll continue to talk about the failed projects. So you judge for yourself, comrades, as to who really is the backbone of this country. In less than 3 years, we have to clean up a set of measures they put for 23 years. And they keep forgetting that. They want to compare, every time they do a presentation, APNU, AFC. APNU, AFC. Nothing else. You understand? So, when we talk about the failed projects, they invested $200 million to the sugar factory in Skeldon. Today that's gone. Then they had the fiber optic cables, $80 million US. Never we have benefited from that. The money disappeared. Then they had the hydro project, over $60 million disappeared. Then they had the specialty hospital. That people took the $4 million and disappeared from the country. When Anna Gulsaran made a statement in the oversight to see the problems that exist, it was because we cannot recover those money. There were no economic plan. There were no a feasibility study to ensure that the project was feasible. And that is the reason why you're going to find that they can't find the investor for the Amarillo Falls project. But I want to tell you this. Guyana is in the brinks of development. But if we don't have the right people to govern and manage that, we are going to end up with the oil course, and it's happening already. Because, and I want you to come to my next point, that the U.S. Embassy has stated that they will have to create a level playing field for businesses. So I'm coming there. What we have seen recently by Vice is that people didn't understand what the reporter was trying to do. They want to see a whole suitcase of money paid and collect. No! What Vice did is to walk you through a system to show what exists in Guyana. And that is what Vice did. They didn't have to pay no money to show you that Jack Day or whatever collect money. It was a system of doing business in Guyana. And we have to get the being over here to understand. And her job is done. Her job is done. Because it shows you exactly to get something done in Guyana, or if you come in as an international investor, what you have to do. So nowhere in this world you will find that any investor coming from the United States or UK will want to do such a business, because the laws in overseas does not allow them to do bribery. And we must understand that. So comrades, I won't be long with you, but I want you to understand that we're here for you. We're going to fight every single day. Every single day we're going to fight to ensure that we monitor, we see and check the balances of these people to ensure that our money is being spent the right way. We are going to expose them, we're going to depose them, and we're going to ensure that they held accountable for the spending of our money. Because we have seen budget from budget, but yet we're not seeing the growth, where the money is going. You have to ask yourself where the money is going. I'm ashamed to tell you that I went to a couple of villages and some people are getting at least one meal to eat. I'm ashamed to tell you that. You understand? We have to take this in a very serious matter. So when it comes to the next election, stand with us. Every single person we got to come out. We're going to be back right in office. Thank you very much, comrades, for listening to me. Thank you very much.
MP Diana Ryan Ramsroop, otherwise known as Ricky Ramsroop, there bringing his views and thoughts there at the People's Parliament last night at the Stabrook Square. And I want to just zone in on one thing that he said, which is very, very telling and important for us to remember, people, that you didn't need to see money change hands in the Vice video. What that video did was expose the system of how business is done in Guyana, the corrupt nature of the operations that happen, that you have to come to this one man if you want something to happen in this country. And that should be alarming, folks. That should send alarm bells ringing off in our heads, because these are things that affect investment in the country. For your file to come to the top of the pile, you have to grease these palms, these middlemen like Sue, and collect monies. And that's what the Vice News mini documentary exposed. Why is it that that's how business has to be done in Guyana? And so Jagdeo could come on the press conference and say, oh, they didn't get anything on me, my hands are clean. But what we did figure out is that this corrupt system exists, and this is how they like it. Everybody palm getting grease. Folks, let's continue to keep our eyes on the ball. Thank you, dear MP, for that. As we continue our marathon program, we are going to move on, folks, and we have two special guests with us. Joining us now, it is 5:41 here in the studios, and we are going to be joined now by the chairman of the People's National Congress Reform, the Honorable Member of Parliament, Sherwin Holder, joining us all the way from region number 2. He's with us there? Yes. Thank you very much for joining us, Mr. Chair. Welcome to the program. We're also joined in the studio. Before I go to the chair, let you know that we also joined in the studio by the Honorable Member of Parliament, Ms. Dawn Hastings Williams, and of course she will be chatting with us as we discuss some other issues pertaining to the crisis in government. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Randy.
Right, and welcome, Comrade Chair.
Thank you, Randy. Good evening to you. Good evening to my colleague MP Dawn Hastings Williams, and good evening to your guests.
Yes, thank you very much for joining us, taking the time out to join the program as we discuss a number of issues. Chair, I'm going to start with you here. We have brought up so many topics since the start of this program, and it seems as though Guyana is in crisis. I know that as an MP, and of course in your capacity as the chair of the PNCR, you're dealing with these issues on a daily basis. What are your general thoughts on how the PPP is governing, given the 2 years, 2.5 years that we've seen from them so far?
Thank you, Randy, and good evening to your viewing audience, listening audience again. I would describe it as absolute bad governance. I wouldn't say poor governance. I would put it to the extent of bad governance. This administration has had roughly 2 years already, and we're seeing a downturn in practically every single sector that you can consider in this country. We're seeing bad governance in the education system. We're seeing bad governance in the health sector. We're seeing bad governance in the public, what do you call it? What do you call it now? The police system, the
Police commission,
yes, in terms of law and order, we're seeing bad governance in that sector, and practically every single sector we're seeing, poor practices of governance. And so it is my belief and the belief of our party that this country is in a crisis. There is a food crisis at the moment, cost of living crisis. And then we have, on the other hand, we're seeing now evidence of corruption amongst high public officials. And so we're really in a jam here in this country. And I was looking at your video just before we came on, where the Honorable MP Ricky Ramsroop spoke. And it dawned on me at that moment, once again, ever so often, that we did not see these levels of poor governance or bad governance. We did not see the levels of corrupt practices during the previous administration. And I believe at this point, the public is becoming to have self-realization. The public, more and more persons, even across those who would have supported the People's Progressive Party in the last election, more and more of them are beginning to become more aware of what is happening, becoming conscious, and coming out of that illusion that they created from 2018 to 2020. And so you're seeing more and more persons are crossing the aisle, more and more persons are speaking up about these issues. So I am happy to be on this program with a very experienced former minister, and I know that we can have a productive discussion as to where we are now, where we were, where we are now, and where we are heading as a country.
Yes, thank you for that. And I'll throw it over to MP Hastings Williams. You are Shadow Minister of Amerindian Affairs. I want your general take on what you would have observed over the last 2 years as an MP, as a representative of the indigenous people, and as a Guyanese. How do we take what is happening? What are your thoughts?
Thank you again, Randy. Good evening, and good evening to your viewers. Indeed, it is a pleasure for me to be on this forum to reflect and to highlight what I have seen during these 2 years when PPPC government took office in 2020.
Yeah.
Now, coming off of an online worship hour, this reminds me of Adam and Eve, when Adam blamed Eve and Eve blamed the serpent. So it's a blaming game. In my opinion, it's a blaming game within the governance, the PPPC governance at present.
Yeah.
The VP blaming his friends and the president and whoever, but you will never find any of them acknowledging and accepting their mistakes. They will blame it. And what I see is that they're blaming the poor branches of governance. For example, the local governance, the local government system, the regional system, And we have the central system in Guyana.
Yeah.
We have the 3 branches of governance. And if something goes wrong at the top, Randy, then we expect the middleman and the lower one to emulate same.
Yeah.
And why I say that, because recently, coming from an hinterland region, we have heard about the crisis of what is happening in the Desri Caesar Fox, what we call Waramadang Secondary School. And you know, some persons are so brave enough to say, let us not talk about this and we don't have the facts. What more facts do we need? And coming from that region, being born and growing up in that region, I know what it is. I know that the secondary school hosts students from 11 primary schools, 11 or 12 primary schools, which are at a great distance from each other. It's not like you can jump in a minibus and you reach that school within minutes or an hour. Some children from Chinawing, most time they have to walk. They have to walk. And this they do in seeking for their rights as a child, which is educating themselves so they can become better citizens of this country. And who knows, in the near future, a little indigenous boy or girl may grow up, and I'm quite sure they have intentions to become leaders, not only of their communities or their regions, but I know some already who are aiming to become a great leader of this nation. And that is their right. As anybody else.
You know, you pointed out something that I need, and I'll come back. I'll ask the chairman's opinion on this, but I want to get your take first. This blame game. Now, from observation, we know, right? The evidence is there to support that central government in some of those regions, specific regions, they are doing their best to stymie the work. They're not giving them what they need. They're withholding things from the RDCs and NDCs that are controlled by the APNU AFC. They're being stymied. When we heard this story about what happened at the DC Caesar Fox School here in Region 7, there was an attempt by the minister and the government to say, well, the region is in charge. The region is in charge of education there, right? But then the people of the region made it known very clear that they are not getting what they need from central government to be able to do what they have to do. And so it is a matter of, okay, we're going to stifle them and then we're going to blame them. That is what we see happening. And I want your take on that before I throw it to the chairman. Your take on how the role that they play in stifling these RDCs and NDCs.
You're quite correct, Randy. As I said, they continue to blame each other because when, as they said, when they started to do their investigations, I read in the Kaichur News, I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, that it was the fault of the head teacher. So the blame gone to the poor head teacher of the affecting the system of the school administration. But being a former head teacher, I had a hot meal at the school, and I know the dormitories throughout Guyana, their tender bids are being handled at the central government because it's almost approximated as way years when I knew it was like 13 to 14 million a month for these dormitories. And so for the year, you can imagine how much monies were being allocated. We passed budget very early in this year. And that came under school feeding under the Ministry of Education and then regional development, local regional government. So it is not to say that monies weren't passed. I can attest, perhaps they may have not budgeted enough because of the COVID pandemic, but even that shouldn't be an excuse. As you say, you're blaming the head teacher that she sent in her requests late. But you would have seen everyone there knows that the head teacher was in Bartica 2 weeks before this incident or this issue came up in public. She was there at the Department of Education, and usually it's the head cook of the kitchen that prepares this menu, the list based on the quota that a supplier is given. When he or she is going to tender, there is a fixed quota for every month what he or she has to supply.
Yeah.
But the problem there was, as I understood, that the contract wasn't awarded to no one as yet. It's June month. Budget was passed in January, and no contract had been awarded to any supplier, any of the suppliers to supply that school.
Yeah.
And so it was a crisis. It has not been corrected because it is only then when it was highlighted that ATVs took supplies in the night to Warramadang Secondary School.
Wow.
Is that how we're going to treat our children? Only when they raise their voices, when somebody's courageous enough stands up to speak on behalf of them. After being so patient, after understanding that, okay, it's pandemic time, but we know too that we want the children back in school to get the education. And it is not the full enrollment that returned to the school. It was only grades 11 and 12, those who were preparing for the CSEC.
Yeah.
Because 7, 8, and 9 remained at home. However, recently I heard that they sent for them to get into the dormitories. So indeed, there is a crisis, like I said.
Serious crisis.
Serious crisis at the regional system, because the poor regional system now may have exhausted their ceiling for spending. And so where do we go when that happens? Do we stay there and allow the children to eat bare rice? That wasn't even shine rice.
It wasn't even shine rice.
It was not shine rice, because I love shine rice. I love shine rice with fried patwa or yara or whatever. That taste is very good. It's nutritious. But that rice, the children themselves, it's not shine rice, it's plain rice. Bare rice, that's what we would call. So, you know, that was very serious. That was a serious crisis.
Chair, let's bring you back in here now. From the children in Region 7 eating bay rice to Region 9, we've heard lots of complaints from the St. Ignatius secondary there in Region 9 about the horrendous conditions of the school. And like the MP said, there's a blame game, right? But we know what is happening. There's a concentration of power at the top, and we have the tin pot dictators, like I like to call him, Dharmlal, who is in charge of local government, trying to hold on to that power. How do we tackle something like this, something like that? What are your thoughts on how we tackle that? Because we know these regional bodies are very, very important for governance. Okay. Oh, my mic? Oh, sorry, you have to unmute your mic, Chair.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. First off, I was listening to former Minister MP Don Hastings there, and it dawned on me that these very issues exist in a number of regions.
Yes.
For example, in Region 2, it was brought to my attention that there is a big garbage, a very terrible garbage build up at the CV Noons Primary School. And I was told by reliable sources there, by parents and even teachers who brought pics to show me and even invited me to the school to see the condition. Now, I was told by them that this garbage situation existed over the last year or even more. Over the last year, no one has attempted to clear any amount of garbage there, but what they're claiming is happening is that a certain company is being logged as removing the garbage. And so money is being passed. People are being paid for this service, but the service is not done. And so the children and the parents and teachers are made to suffer there. A teacher even explained, she came to my home one morning very early and she showed me the pics and she said quietly that she doesn't want her name to be mentioned because you understand how this government operates. They victimize you. And she said to me that they attempted to burn the garbage because no one was removing the garbage, and apparently there's a racket there going on. But they were stopped by no other than officials from the People's Progressive Party. Their party office is adjacent to the school compound, and so they don't want the smoke to affect them at their party office. But the garbage can remain there, Randy, and can affect the students, the teachers, and the parents that have to, use that school. Another situation that I observed was at the multilateral school. I have a child there at that school, so I've seen it with my own eyes. There is a situation there, and I think someone raised it on social media. When it rains, the children, there's a lot of water there going into the roadway for you to get into the school, and no one is paying attention to it. Now, one parent brought it to my attention that he attempted to take some pics. And at that moment, the security attempted to put him out of the compound, and thereof he was banned from entering the school. So the powers that be passed that instruction to ensure that that situation is not further exposed. So it's happening all across the various regions. But what I wanted to highlight that these things are happening because of the PPP's quest for domination and control. Now, one of the tenets of good governance is inclusivity. Inclusivity is a major pillar of good governance. But what you find happening with the PPP is that they do not want to allow, for example, NDCs that were won by the APNU AFC to be, they do not want the party to govern in those NDCs. They don't want the party to run those NDCs. So, and it's not only restricted to NDCs, it's also towns that were won by the APNU AFC coalition, and also regions. In the case of Region 7, that's a region that was won by the APNU AFC. So what they do is they undermine the leaders there, the leadership of those regions, whether it be the regional chairpersons or if it's the NDC chairs or the mayors of the towns that we would have won. So they undermine them by using persons like the town clerks, which they control, the overseers, and the, what do you call it, the REOs. They undermine, they use them, that system, to undermine them and to starve them of resources. But when they end up in these problems, as in the case of the Warramdong school, then they shift that blame now back to the region and say, look, the region is in control. That's an APNU AFC control region or an APNU AFC control NDC or town. In the case of Georgetown, they do the same thing. I see the Minister of Public Infrastructure and others blaming the mayor for poor drainage. Every time it rains, they blame the mayor and town council of Georgetown, when in fact they starve these bodies of the necessary resources that they require to do the people's work. So the question of how, now we get to the question, how do we combat this? How do we combat this in the face of a brutal, dictatorial government that is currently in power? I would think the first, one of the ways that we can tackle it is to carry them to court. Carry them to court. But that is another, that's another thing to discuss, because even the court system, even in the court system, they infiltrate. And so one of the best ways to tackle it is through the courts, which we as a party have in recent times have been doing. There are a number of cases that we have put to the courts to challenge the PPP in that regard. Another way is for the people themselves. Now, the people themselves have got to become more aware of what is happening and rise up against this dictatorship, rise up against this poor level of poor governance, rise up against this government that is attempting to dominate and control and suppress certain sections of the public. I'd want to give Don a little time because I've been saying a mouthful.
Yes. Right. Thank you for that. And you raised some very important points. Let me say this. Education in general is in a crisis. From Tocqueville Secondary, people being shocked. We saw the violence in schools, Region 9, Region 7, Region 1. Education is in a crisis. But, you know, Priya Manik-Chand is engaged in the sort of propaganda politics that the PPP is known for. She's going to go on Facebook and smile and say, you know what, we're getting $30,000 cash grant, and primary school children get school books, and we're going to plaster this about, oh, she's doing a wonderful job, right? That's the kind of propaganda politics. And as we're talking about cash grant, I want to bring back MP Hastings Williams here. We have slipped into this reality where we are a handout nation. Unsustainable as is, we are a handout nation. We get a 15,000 here, 20,000 here, and then when the group of people that we believe, you know, are for us, we give them 250,000. When we come back and we give a 19,000 here to these people, we go in a community and we carry some hampers, and this seems to be the band-aid approach that they've taken. How sustainable is such such initiatives?
Okay, Randy, any right-thinking person, a person with a common self, very well knows and will know that programs as such are not sustainable. I personally don't say that PPP is in government for only 2 years. They had 23 or 28 plus 2.
Right.
I can agree when you say APNU was in power for 3 years.
Effectively.
And I can proudly say what we did as APNU AFC in Region 7, Regions 9, within that 2 short period years before the no confidence came in. I can proudly stand at this time, and the people know it. We built 20 houses in Upper Mazaruni. It wasn't easy, but we managed. We completed 20 houses under CHNPA within those 2 years. And the people are living comfortable, happy within that home that we provided for them. 2 years has passed. Not a single house has been built in Region 7.
Wow.
Not one on the CHNPA. I heard the president went, I heard when he went to Bartica, he promised 500 homes. I always say Bartica is not Region 7. Region 7 is made up of Upper Mazaruni, Middle Mazaruni, and Lower Mazaruni. And Bartica is our administrative center. Kamarang is the administrative center for Upper Mazaruni. And we have Kurupung, Isano, and all these places in the Middle Mazaruni. It's a big region with a lot of resources, but which are not being trickled down. And as I talk a little about resources and what we did and what these people, the government of the day is saying that they are doing so much. And like you rightly said, they're just going in to hand out 25,000 here. They promised to give the hinterland residents 25,000. What can that 25,000 do? I am not saying they shouldn't receive it. No one wants to refuse money, especially at this time. Any little pittance that comes, they will be gladly to accept. What I say to them, accept it, collect it, and request for more. Ask for more that will allow you to make you live, to make you to be in a comfortable home, or you know, in a comfortable situation. But my people, they themselves are seeing for themselves. Why only give us 25,000? And you know it's a fact that in these hinterland communities, the cost of living is very high,
Yes.
and it's getting higher day by day because the cost of the air freight has gone up.
Mhm.
To go into Cameroon
stuff in
presently,
there,
it's only by flying means we haven't been able to complete any roads as yet to link these regions, to link the coastland to the hinterland. We're still in the process of, I don't know if it's feasibility study or if it's just negligence, but we have not been able to do that after 56 years of independence, to link the coastland.
Sadly. Let me say this though, you brought up a very important point, and I think we're going to, as we come to the end of this segment, we have to talk about the cost of living. We have to talk about the cost of living. This idea that this PPP government is filled with these economic geniuses, apparently, the Ashley Singhs of the world and the Barjack Hughes of the world. And they have overseen 2 years of rapid inflation, rapid rise in the cost of basic household items, and there has been little to nothing being done to ease the burden on the Guyanese people, except for the $25,000. And before we delve into that, essentially, I don't believe that there is anything wrong with in economic terms, you call it cash transfers, but it has to be something substantial. That somebody, when they get this, they can invest in a little shop and they start being can sustain themselves and the family. You can't do anything with $25,000. And to give them $25,000 to give them grocery for this month, and then you're coming back next year to give them another $25,000. So I believe that cash transfers and at a particular level make sense if it is substantial enough to give the person opportunity to use that money to do something. It's the adage of giving a man a fish as opposed to teaching him how to fish. If you say, I will give you enough money that you can buy a fishing rod and so you can fish for your family every day, then that sort of cash transfer is something that makes sense. But there has been nothing to that level to ease the burden on the Guyanese people, right? And I'm going to go to the chairman right now, and we'll come back and end on the cost of living with you. But chairman, I want you to comment on the lackluster approach by the PPP to deal with the burdens put on Guyanese people because of the cost of living.
Yes, thank you, Randy. Well, lackluster is you stole the word from me. People are under real pressure currently in this country over the last year, maybe the last year and a half, or as long as 2 years. And as a party, we have called on the government time and time over to take an approach that will ease this burden especially on the poor and the vulnerable people of this country. As a party, we made several proposals. We made proposals at the beginning of this year. In this budget cycle, we made proposals in the last budget cycle and the cycle before that. But what we find is that the government has only been dismissive of those proposals because obviously it didn't come from them. Lately, I saw the vice president dismissing one of our proposals that came from the leader himself to use the excess cash that we're getting from the oil now to subsidize the fuel cost, subsidize fuel in this country. Excuse me. We understand that the price of fuel plays an integral role in the cost of living and the level that where food prices would be. And for him to dismiss such a proposal when in fact we prove that countries like Mexico, both oil and non-oil countries, countries like Mexico, for example, are taking the same approach. As we speak, the US is looking to have a similar approach to reduce the cost of fuel so that the food prices and other goods prices for goods and services can come down, because we know that once fuel price goes up, everything else goes up. And so we've made these recommendations, these important recommendations. We've made recommendations for the government to determine a livable wage and put measures in place to deal with that persons that are receiving below that minimum level. But this government, to my mind, Randy, is not serious. They're not serious. They're not taking their responsibility as a government to the people of Guyana very seriously. What I see is happening is that these guys are looking to enrich just a small fraction, their friends and their cronies. And so we can go even to we can look upon the recent documentary involving the VP and Sue and the reporter posing as Chinese investors. And he clearly says in that documentary that Sue is my friend. He handles all the arrangements. And so you get that sense that this is the way business is done. This is the order of the day. This is how governance is being practiced, is being executed in this country today. And it is for a small clique, unfortunately. The masses are not benefiting. Now, MP Don mentioned, and you yourself, Randy, mentioned these plasters, these little handouts. My government, my party, supports cash grants. We support cash grants. We will support cash grants in the future. But we also want to see some critical measures being implemented that goes beyond cash grants. Merely giving out a $25,000 here and there will not solve the problems. The problems in society today. There need to be strong measures that has to be put in place, and so that is the expectation, the minimum expectation of the people of this country. People expect these things to be put in place. Now, when you get to even the cash grant level where they are giving out these grants, recently, for example, they would have been giving out $100,000 to what they call visually impaired. When I read the flyer, it had visually impaired, even for those who are wearing spectacles and those who are blind, or And what I found in Region 2 is that they have rather different standards for different people. When you go to Dartmouth Health Center, for example, and I was there, and I spoke with a number of persons that were there. They told those persons, some groups of persons, that they're not entitled. These people have to be blind. The children have to be blind in order to get this grant. But when you speak to the health workers there, they are saying that is not the normal case, because on a daily basis throughout the last week, they would have been recording persons that just came with spectacles, children that just came with spectacles. They had no real visual disability, and so there's a different standard for different people. I went to the Anne Regina Health Center, and I had cause to upbraid the person in charge of the program, and I said to him in no uncertain terms, "This is a clear case of discrimination. You guys are discriminating against certain groups, certain persons that are perceived to be non-supporters of the People's Progressive Party." What they did in that system is that they placed party acolytes at each and every health facility so that they can determine who benefits from these programs or not. And again, Randy, we're talking about bad governance, the issue of bad governance and how the resources of this country are distributed. We can look at the flood relief grants. We can look at the COVID cash grant and the way how they went about doing it. Now, Irfan Ali himself promised, I recall it's probably about a year and a half, it was December 2020. He called on the Auditor General to investigate these claims. And we're now in June of 2022, and we're yet to see any investigation being done. But that is the way how these guys govern this country. And essentially what they are doing is they are creating a rift, they are creating animosity between the different groups, and specifically between Indo and Afro Guyanese in this country. And that is not a good sign. That cannot be good for the future of this country. But I think what essentially they're doing, they are purposely creating these rifts so that they can have a political advantage. A political advantage when you get to elections. They believe that they are more Indo-Guyanese than Afro-Guyanese, and so they can operate in that manner and create this animosity between these two groups, and it will be advantageous for them at elections. But it is not only between those two groups, because I have met with a lot of poor Guyanese, Indo-Guyanese, that made claims of discrimination. I've met with Amerindians, indigenous Guyanese, that made claims of discrimination. Only yesterday I was speaking to someone from way up in the Pomeroon, and she described a terrible situation up there, how they operated in terms of the distribution of the grants. Yeah. Right now, they're expecting this riverine flood relief to come on stream, but they're not hearing anything about it. And it appears from what she said to me, it appears as though you have to align yourself with the PPP party persons there on the ground before you can receive. She explained a situation where an entire family got the grant from every member in the household, and when you come to other folks, it is only some of them were not given completely, they were disregarded completely, and then there were others that just one person received. So it is a sad situation in this country, the way how the PPP is going about governing it. And I think that more and more persons are recognizing this fact. And as an opposition, we have to be out there more. That's why I like this program. We have to be out there more, speaking to the public, educating them, and letting them know what is going on, and putting forward, at the same time, putting forward our plans when we get back into government. And get back we will.
Yeah. Chairman, I hear you. It is well established that the PPP is probably the most corrupt administration in this hemisphere. COVID, there are people who still didn't get the COVID cash grant. That was a massive corruption, as you said, an audit. The farmers with that corruption, that racket. It's racket after racket after racket. And what they have done, MP Hastings, is that they have not put systems in place to monitor these cash grants, right? And so when you give people a bag of money and say, go distribute it in the communities without any measures in place to hold them accountable, then we hear all of these stories about people being skipped over and who get and who didn't get to, because they have decided, okay, we're going to do it ad hoc. We just give the money and let it, let our party people distribute it. And so this is what we have. And again, these are the measures that you're putting in place to bring relief to the people, and they're proving very, very ineffective. Yeah, I just wanted your thoughts on that and the lack of oversight on.
They never participated in, making the list, because usually what they would do, have a public meeting with the members of the communities, inform them about what is happening, about this cash grant that is going to come, and then they sit together as the village council and they come up with the list, inform the people who are on the list to be receiving this grant. But nothing of that sort came for one COVID relief grant and for the farmers grant. They were not consulted as the two shall, because one particular two shall tell me, MP, I have been a farmer all my years. I have a big farm. And to his surprise, well, not really surprise, he said some young persons who don't even own a garden, who don't even have a farm, they receive 100,000, while those folks who do have a farm and have been farming all the years, they receive 50,000. So he wanted to know what was the criteria used. And according to you, so what was the system that was in place for this distribution of cash grant? So I can tell you a lot of those persons in the hinterland communities are dissatisfied.
Yeah.
It's just a polish that the government will go and say the people are happy. They will go to 1, 2, 3 persons, ask them to comment. Oh yes, we're very happy for this 50,000, 100,000. What one Guyana are we speaking about? When I get 50 and you get 100, the cane cutters get 150,000, and indigenous person getting 25,000.
Yeah.
These things do not coincide with their theme of one Guyana. I was even listening to a YouTube presentation when the president himself went to Camarang, and one of the two shows stood up and said, we thank you for the initiatives of the 25,000 grant, but in this oil producing community, we expect more. And the person said, we expect to hear, or we need 25,000 US. Well, of course, the person really didn't mean, and the president turned and tell him, that's a gaffe. He's not here about gaffing. But literally he said that, but his intention was that we needed more monies to be poured into these communities. And I agree with you, this government is in crisis, because to this date, you wouldn't believe, if I'm not mistaken, there has never been the Natural Resources Committee meeting called to this date in Parliament.
But
so
we're spending money.
We're producing money. We're hearing in the news that we've received so much $1 billion as revenues from the oil, but it's not being scrutinized. How can that be transparent, and how can that be counted as accountability to your people?
Yeah.
Receiving billions of dollars in oil resources, from diamond, from whatever resources we have. But the Natural Resources Committee, sectoral committee, to this date has not been called in Parliament.
Wow. Transparency and accountability is the enemy of the PPP, and we know this. It is almost 6:30, and we're going to bring an end to this segment of our marathon discussion on Guyana in crisis. I want to thank the chairman of the PNCR, MP Sherwin Holder, for joining us from region number 2, of course, and in studio, MP Don Hastings Williams. Both of you, it was a really, really good experience having this discussion with you as we bring to the fore the issues being faced by our citizens in Guyana. Chair, thank you very much for joining us. Your mic.
Sorry, thanks for having me, Randy. Anytime.
Right, great. And of course, in studio, MP, thank you very much for bringing light to a number of these issues. And that's something that you mentioned at the end, where we want people to know all this big talk about the natural resources bill and this, and they have not made any attempt to convene that committee. Thank you very much for your presence here in the program today.
Thank you, Randy, for having me, and thank you to your viewers. And I would just like to encourage them, all our viewers, to let us unite together for the development of our country, and wherever discrimination, victimization, corruption of any form, as Guyanese, we must stand firm.
Yes.
We must stand firm against these, whether it's through a protest, a peaceful protest, whatever, because we know a lot about the chronicles of hypocrisy under the PPPC.
Yep.
There are a lot if we go to take and talk about, and they are never original. Only today we were chatting with a friend. You know, this government is never original. Born and brought, food, feed, clothe, and house the nation. They came with grow more food, and they're going to rebrand it with something else. And trust me, you will see they're never original. There is nothing new that this government has placed on the table for this country with a lot of resources that they are receiving.
Yeah.
So thank
track
you
record
once
of
again.
failure, as I like to say. Thank you very much. As we end this segment of the program, we want to say thank you very much for continuing to stay with us here on our marathon episode of Nation Watch, as we unbox and we unpack a whole host of issues. Folks, we're going to go into another video from the People's Parliament. We're going to go with City Councillor Fraser, and he is going to bring his presentation that he did last evening at People's Parliament. So we're going to go into that, and we're coming back, and we're going to be joined when we come back by the Vice Chair of Region number 4, Mr. Samuel Sandy. We'll have a discussion about what's happening there in Region number 4. But first, let's take Mr. Councillor Fraser out there at People's Parliament.
Greetings, comrades. Like my colleague has already greeted you, in the name of our leader and party, I endorse that. He has also asked you to stand with us. I am convinced, after just over 1 year, you are convinced that this is the side you need to stand with and you need to be firm. I am convinced that you would have done your own check and make comparisons and decided that this is the only way you can go to save a nation, to save a people, and to bring back unity and love in societies. Comrades, I am going to merely hold on the area that I mostly au fait with, and that is the local government and the council. We are by number outnumbered any other political party, and I stay home as it relates to Georgetown City Council. But in my presentation, I will make sure that you understand that I speak to other council and other municipalities. Comrades, we are an elected body. We were elected by the people. It means that we have to be for the people. The people expect us to represent them. And that is why they asked us, and that is why they voted for us. The municipalities at those elections, they are two-tier. First past the post and proportional representation. At the end of it all, those councillors being elected by the people are sworn in, become councillors. You have a mayor, a deputy mayor, committee members. Based on the Constitution, the Local Government Act, and 2801, it tells us that we are the political leaders and the administration do the administrative work based on the directive they get from the decision-making body. Comrades, we are not favored by this government. I will take you back to post 2015, where we had an imposed tongue clerk. And I am saying to you because we had an interview. The interview was transparent. The person who was imposed on us was not even shortlisted. And that person was imposed on us. Like the imposed government, we are suffering at the council level with impositions, starting from the position of the tongue clerks. We had an interview that was conducted transparently with the local government representative, with the council's representative, and all the other stakeholders who were there to conduct those interviews. At the end of those interviews, we had a recommendation put, having gone through by the council, to the local government commission. To date, that recommendation is not looked at. And in what they did, they imposed the tongue clerk on us. And I know you hear me, because mainly the people in Georgetown should know this. We are suffering with imposition. We were imposed on by tongue clerks after tongue clerks. And while we make recommendations based on the Local Government Act to the Local Government Commission. The Local Government Commission review, study, debate, and on many occasions, and I would want to also say by custom and practice, return to us those recommendations that we make to them. In this case, that was not so. The persons recommended out of a transparent interview, we are in the courts right now for the court to make a decision. And instead of them giving us those persons who were interviewed and recommended, we were imposed by one tongue clerk after the other. None who fits the bill. None who has a legal certificate, which is one of the criteria of tongue clerk. And so, we at the council level, so often, we are told by the Local Government Commission who must be the officers that will represent and head departments. We are convinced what is happening here is that the Local Government Commission is now operating as the persons who control and dominate the council. We have had that situation in the past, post-2015. It has returned. The local government was there all the time and was not peopled. We peopled the local government elections. Now it is peopled. The minister don't have the kind of authority he had before, so they use the persons they have in the local government system to impose upon the council at their own will. Comrades, I can tell you, there are a number of issues that we have, but I'll raise a few with you. One of which, we had some staff members of a particular section of the council, who, because after the imposition, there were not the necessity to people the Local Government Commission, so the council had to do their own interviews, the council had to do their own debates, the council came up with position and make recommendations. And that process was outside the Local Government Commission having people. At the end of it, after we came up with a position, the Local Government Commission, now people, decided they want to go over those recommendations. And you know what they did? They fired 7 staff members from one section. Those staff members were penalized pay their penalty, and after the local government commission were bodied, they said they want to look at those documents, and they fired those persons. Those matters are in the courts right now. I am convinced that we have reached the stage where the council, and we are looking at it, that we have to look to ask the court to allow us to study the Local Government Act. Because we as councillors who are elected are not allowed to do what we have to do. We make decisions, and a different decision comes from either the Local Government Commission or the minister or the council. And the staff members so often will want to carry out those decisions that they, or those instructions they receive from the Local Government Commission or the minister. And so what happens? The people who are supposed to be representing the people, who know the people's best interests, and want to do things that will satisfy and ease the burden on the people of Georgetown especially, those people can't be represented because we are not allowed to represent them properly. We are given subventions. We were given subventions from the AP and UFC government. And we will tell them what is best for us to do with those subventions. Post 2015, we were told by the minister what to do with subvention and disregard the urgency we might have. Again, during this period, we are told what to do with subvention. The subventions are reduced, and we can do nothing else. In some cases, the procurement are done not by the council. The goods are delivered to the council, but the procurement are not done by the council in some cases. So, comrades, we have to rely on the people. And the people who represent us, and I would want to say we are your servant, we will want to ask you, like my colleague, to stand with us. We will have to ask you to stand with us. And I'll tell you something, no government goes out of office without making mistakes. We might have made mistakes. And I know we apologize to those who presume that we made mistakes in certain areas and identify. You know, but I'll tell you, what is happening now is that you don't have a choice. You don't have a choice, comrades. There's only one way. So often I'm seeing on Facebook, Guyana for sale. But the citizens, we don't know the price. Guyana for sale, but the citizens, we don't know the price. So how could Guyana be ours?
Could Guyana be ours? Part of the presentation there by City Councillor Gregory Fraser out of the People's Parliament last evening. For those persons who missed it, we want to ensure that you get an idea of what was happening out there and hear the presentations of those persons out there. MPs, and of course, we had a city councillor there giving his thoughts. And I like what he said. What is the price? We don't know the price. You know, we don't know the price. How much are these fellas making selling out Guyana? Let me say this before we move on, folks. Part of that documentary by Vice, when we saw some of the hidden camera footage, we saw Sue bringing a pile, right? A pile of documents which had land and timber concessions and oil and all manner of things. And essentially he is saying, look, through my friendship with the government, I was given access to these things. These lands are our lands. He essentially owns a large part of Guyana through his wheeling and dealing with Jack Dio and others. And now he is playing middleman. So listen, all right, here what? This particular prime land here that we can put a hotel on, I got access to it. And if you want this project to go through, you gotta meet the boss, and the boss and I, the boss can deal with the government side, I can deal with you and the money, and we can push you. That is the state of play, folks. But folks, as we continue in the final half an hour for my stint here, because at 7 o'clock we will be joined by Elson Lowe, and he'll take you up to 8 as we continue our marathon program this Saturday evening. For our final segment, we'll be joined by the regional vice chair, region number 4, Demra Mahaika, Mr. Samuel Sandy, and we will be discussing some issues in the news or coming out of region number 4. Now, before I even get into that, let me welcome Mr. Sandy to the program. Samuel, welcome to the program, VC, and we hope that you are well this evening.
Thank you very much. Yes, I am great. Good night to you and good night to our viewers.
Great. But you need to be well because we have a whole host of issues. Region number 4, Regional Democratic Council number 4, of course, was won and controlled by the APNU AFC. They have the majority of councillors on that council. And like the other regions that are controlled by the APNU AFC, we've seen the stance, the position, the posture of the PPP government towards those RDCs. And you have a front row seat to the contention and the victimization and the vindictiveness of this administration. And we want to get into those issues. I warn you, viewers, that it is quite a lot of issues to go through. I hope that we can do it some justice this evening. And we have the vice chair who has a wealth of information to share with us this evening. VC, where do we start? What would you say is the major issue facing the RDC as it is?
Well, let me first begin by saying that Region 4 really is a melting pot, really, of issues. And it's difficult for me to even decide on which one should be considered as being most important, because every issue there is important. But if I may, I think there is need for us to fix that divide between the council and the administration. And because there is that disconnect, we tend not to progress as we should as a region. There is also need for central government to respect local government. And we have not seen that. We have written central government on many issues. We have even written the president on many issues. And to date, we have not even received an acknowledgement of those letters that were sent. We continue to see central government trying to stymie the progress, especially in Region 4, and I can say the same for Region 10 because I am in contact with Chairman Adams in Region 10, and the issues that we suffer are identical to the issues that they suffer there in Region 10. So one of the big issues there is that central government needs to recognize local government, and they must also understand that this is our region. You know, we own the region, and that must be respected.
Yeah. VC, I want you, for the sake of our viewers, to sort of explain what you mean when you say the relationship between the council and the administration, because for someone looking on, they might be thinking, well, wait, the council is there and there are people working in the RDC building, which we call them the administration, whatever. How is it, why is there a divide? Explain that dynamic and that situation for our viewers, and how it is that the council and the administration are seen as two separate set of people.
So the council is responsible for policy. The council is made up of elected officials, made up of councillors, 35 of us in total. You have the administration, the regional administration, and which is headed by the regional executive officer. Now, it is the role or the job of the regional executive officer, who is also the clerk of council, to carry out the decisions of the council. But what we find is a case where the clerk carries out the decisions of central government and not so the decisions of the council, knowing full well that the decisions coming from central government really should be directed to the council and not directly to the REO or / clerk. So we have a case where the RDC, we will say one thing and the administration will decide to do something totally different. And if we were to invite the minister to intervene, in most cases, the directive is really given by central ministry, not for the REO not to carry out the decisions of the council.
Yeah.
So we have that kind of pulling and tugging, and the REO is in the middle there.
Yeah. Earlier, the deputy mayor was on, and I raised the issue of staffing of these regional bodies, these regional democratic organs, and the fact that those staff are not decided by, or they're not hired by the council. Central government and the local government commission does that. I normally cite this as part of the problem, but let's dig a little deeper. The council, you said, is the decision-making body for the region. That is how it should be. That's how it was set up in the ideal situation. The council meets, they make a decision on a particular matter in the region, and the administration carries out that decision through the clerk of council, and that's how it's supposed to work. Now, there's a recurring problem in region number 4. And for, full disclosure, I am privy to a lot of these issues as I sit on the council with Vice Chair Sandy. I'm at regional council for region number 4. There's a prevailing problem in region number 4 where at council meetings, no information is shared with the council. An entire month would pass, and the clerk of council would come and say there are no correspondence. So the council essentially is being starved of that information as to what is happening at the administrative level. Can you kind of expand on that and give a clearer picture of what exactly is happening at Region 4?
Like I said, the disconnect continues. Central government will send a correspondence to, let's say, to the RDC. The REO will also, the clerk of council, once he receives that correspondence, it's for him to take stock of it and also to inform the chairman of that correspondence. But what you find happening is that the REO will receive the information and he will not share the information with the chairman. So sometimes you find things are happening in the region and we have to learn about these things in the newspaper and not from the REO. And the same thing happened last year when we had the whole fiasco concerning the preparation of the budget, because central government sent the budget circular to the REO, and the REO did not see it fit to share the budget circular with the council. He kept it to himself, and he decided that he will get his team and he will put together a budget and he will present a budget to the minister and in parliament and for the minister to present in parliament. So it seems that it's a deliberate attempt at sidelining the council. So it seems as though the REO has become the council.
Yeah, definitely. But VC, there are programs like education and health, and these programs that that come together, and you put them together, you have the, all of the functions of the region, whether it be health, security, agriculture, drainage, local government, all of these things come under the regional administration. What about the reporting? Are these program heads bringing to the council the information, even though you're not getting the correspondence from the REO?
I can say during the period we had Ms. Lucas as the REO, I can say that at every meeting, every program head was present, every department head was present. When the new REO took office, that ended. And to date, we most times see the program head for health. We'll find the program head for public works, and we'll find the program head for education. But when it comes to the department heads, the PAS, finance, and others, during the time when Ms. Lucas was REO, they would normally attend the meetings. So when councillors have questions, and so if they want to query any of the reports, they are there to actually provide guidance. Now, during that time also, we had the regional admin committee meeting. And at that meeting, every program head had to report on that program. The department heads also had to report on what was happening within the department. Now, when the new REO took over, that was the end of it. That was the end of the RAC meetings. So since then, we have not received not even one report from any of the departments, not even one report. So education doesn't submit a report. Public Works doesn't submit a report. The report is submitted to the REO. The REO should be submitting a copy of the report to the chairman. Instead, he would only provide reports to Central Ministry and not the council. Yeah. And I challenge you to ask any councillor of Region 4 about what is happening in Region 4, and he or she might find it difficult to answer any of your questions.
Yeah. It seems as though they are behaving as if the council doesn't exist, and this circumventing of the council must be cause of concern. But let us go to the level of the NDCs. Now, I would have brought up this idea, this One Guyana idea, and I know recently they had a cleanup campaign and a cleanup drive. I want you, VC, to go into that, because there were allegations, and I want you to let us know if these are true, because there are people out there who might be saying, well, we hear it from somebody and it might not be true. But as the vice chair of the region, you would know exactly what happened. And there were allegations of some NDCs being skipped over and neglected. And if you can share the information in terms of those NDCs, let us know what happened with that cleanup campaign and the drive.
You talked about One Guyana. And I believe in the true One Guyana. But the One Guyana being peddled by the PPP, I honestly believe is not One Guyana. Now, the government decided that it will do a countrywide cleanup. And they decided that they will give every NDC a grant of $4 million. Now, mind you, let us start with East Coast. Industry Plaisance, an NDC that is controlled by the APNU AFC. Now, at that NDC, they did not receive not even $1 of that $4 million grant. So we move to Better Hope LBI. Note that Better Hope LBI is in receipt of the $4 million grant. We get to BV Triumph. That NDC is controlled by the APNU. AFC. And that NDC did not receive not even $1 from the $4 million grant. We go to Monrepo La Reconnaissance. Note that Monrepo La Reconnaissance did receive the $4 million. Buxton Falls, where they control, they received the $4 million. And More Hope, they received the $4 million. We get to Haslington Grove. Haslington Grove is controlled by the APNU. Haslington Grove has not received not even $1 from the $4 million grant. We go to Unity Verinigan, that is controlled by the PPP. They received the $4 million grant. You go to Cane Grove, that is controlled by the PPP. They received the $4 million grant. We come to the East Bank. Hararuni Yarrakabra, that is controlled by the APNU, did not receive any the $4 million grant. Mocha Arcadia, that is controlled by the APNU, did not receive the $4 million grant. But her Stelling Little Diamond received. Lamahar Yarrakabra received. Susdai Huskoverden received. Grove Diamond Place received. All the PPP controlled NDCs received the $4 million cleanup grant. And the NDCs controlled by the APNU did not receive. So it's a clear case of, Animal Farm. All animals are equal, but some are more equal than some. And they want to talk about one Guyana.
Yeah. It is a joke at this point in time, this idea of one Guyana, because what you explained there can't get any clearer. It is very blatant. It's in your face. NDCs that controlled by the PPP, y'all take the $4 million grant. APN, UFC, y'all hold on there. Hold on. Y'all stamp in the corner. Now, let me say this. Even and I know there are some other issues in terms of subventions to NDCs, right? How as we take out some of the issues, when these NDCs are given these subventions, whether it be grants, whether it be this, whatever, these monies, are they being managed properly?
Well, when it comes to the subvention, I can, NDCs would normally need to submit a budget, and that budget has to be approved in order for them to be given the subvention, because the subvention is coming directly from the government. So they need to give account for the subvention. What we had during our period in government, the subvention was spent by the NDC. The NDC decides on what programs they want to use the subvention money. But what we find now is that, and let me make it clear, the subvention is only $5 million per NDC. And what the current government did was to divide the subvention. So the Ministry of Local Government decides how 2.5 million of that $5 million will be spent. Last year, they used the money to buy Prussia Run and lights, and that in itself, you need a special program, because most of the contractors who did the procurement for the lights, the contractors who did the delivery, and the contractors who did the installation, most of them, the businesses were registered a month and sometimes a week or two before the contract was even awarded. And the contract did not even go to open tender. It was a friends and family thing. So half of the $5 million, the government decided how it was spent. And you have some NDCs until day like today have not received those lights. And some of them who receive Prussia Run, they still cannot give account as to the amount of Prussia Run they receive. So we have a case where we are giving, the government is giving the NDCs the $5 million, but they're telling the NDCs how to spend half of the $5 million. Oh. And they are also deciding who should be the contractor or the service provider to spend the half of the subvention money. So that's the dilemma we have.
Yeah. VC, we are running out of time. The issues and the problems at region number 4 brought on by the approach of this government is there are many problems, and I know we might need some more time to deal with that. And we're running out of my allocated time on the program. But I want to say thank you very much for continuing the fight at region number 4 and coming this evening to shed some light. It's very, very telling, very, very important information shared there. There are some other issues that we will have to highlight in another program because we're running out of time. But I'll allow you 30 seconds to wrap up, and as we, can suggest how you plan on dealing with this at the region.
Well, I know the viewers, most of you know about Insight on 4, which is our Facebook page. But the deputy regional executive officer decided that he will hijack that page from the RDC. And it has been months, and he hasn't returned the login credentials to the person who was managing that account. So that is why you haven't really been seeing anything coming out from Region 4. But what I would want to say to everyone is that we need to work as a collective. Your elected officials can do only so much. But then again, I'm happy that you have this program where we can provide the public with information as to what is happening at the region. Because I know there are many expectations out there, but we can only deal with what is reality. And I hope that we'll have a chance to really revisit some of these issues. And I hope by that time, by us highlighting the issues here, that the government will do better.
Right. Thank you very much. Expose, oppose, depose. That's what we're trying to do. VC Sandy, thank you very much for joining us on our marathon program this evening. Do enjoy the rest of your evening, and we continue to keep our eyes on what is happening there in region number 4.
You also. Thank you very much.
Great. Folks, we have really, time has, it's flown by. We've been on since 4 on this part of the program, and I will take my leave in just a few, and we'll make way for Mr. Elson Lowe, who will take you up to 8 o'clock. Of course, ensuring that you stay and you continue to share the live stream. We know it's a marathon program. That's what it is. I tell you, we had some Red Bull in the studio, so we go in. I will take my leave in just a few, but before I go, we will bring you a video of Miss MP Tabitha Haley Sarabu Sarabu Haley. I guess don't mix it up. Sarabu Haley on the picket line on the Wednesday the 22nd. Out there picketing Jack Dio. We'll bring you her comments from that in just a few. But before we go, allow me to say this in conclusion as I wind up and I wind down my segment of this marathon program this evening. Let me say this, that the PPP seemed to be very concerned with the word democracy during the elections. But we need to ask ourselves, what exactly is democracy and what it means to us? Doesn't democracy include transparency? Doesn't democracy include accountability, inclusion, decentralization? All these things are missing from this pseudo-democracy that the PPP is trying to paint. Let us ask ourselves, are we really living in a democracy if there is no transparency, no accountability, no inclusion, and no decentralization of power? Are you able to govern yourselves at the local level? Do you really have democracy? And that's the question I leave you with. That is the question that I will leave you. And you need to ask yourselves and ask your friends and family, are we really living in a democracy? And with that, I leave you and I bid you farewell, and I hand you over to Elson Lowe. After the video, Elson will join you and continue the program. My name is Randolph Critchlow. As I always say, folks, let's continue to work together for national development. Do enjoy the rest of your evening and stay tuned as we continue our marathon program here on APN UFC TV, Nation Watch all night. Do enjoy the rest of your evening, folks.
Investigate and change them. MP Tabitha Sarbo-Haley is here as well. She's not only an MP, she's also a political scientist as well. Now, MP Sarbo-Haley, a lot of persons are saying if the president of this country does not ask or instruct Jack Deo to resign, that it will be bad for business in Guyana. Investors will not trust coming here to do legitimate business under an illegitimate government and a corrupt vice president. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, there's a couple of things. First of all, it was coincidental, but yesterday I read on the news that the Malawian president actually sent his vice president packing for allegations of corruption.
Wow.
On June 22nd, 2022. So this is something that in other countries, when it's recognized as allegation, he wasn't found guilty as yet, but it's just been alleged that something has happened onward, and the president took action because we recognize, and he recognized then, that any allegation may have some root, but it would look bad on the country if he doesn't look as if he is dealing with corrupt action in a proper manner. And so with the what is happening here in Guyana, and the illegitimate president, as I call him, Irfaan Ali, making decisions not to even look into the allegations that have been made by the vice news, I think it's bad for business, it's bad for good governance, it's bad for people who, and the country who is trying to suggest that we're not corrupt and we're anti-corruption, not to deal with this thing in a proper manner. Now, in terms of investors and business, it goes twofold. There will be those investors who would not want to come and invest because of the type of corruption that they see happening in Guyana and the fact that it may go all the way up to the VP. But outside of that, there will be other people who like the fact that there's corruption and will use it to their own benefit and come and show and have business in Guyana, knowing that all they need to do is pay somebody to get the business done. So there are two folds to it. And do we want to be a country who is governed by corruption, whose businesses are set up by corrupt means, whose businesses are based on people who want to pay bribes to have businesses in Guyana? Do we want to go down that road? And I think if we do want to go down that road, then we're heading to a failed state. And I don't think that is where Guyanese want us to go, especially where we are now with oil money and oil resources and so. And we have the right and the ability now to have a country that is so first world, if it is that we do the right things and we act the right way. Now, I mentioned this yesterday, and I want to reiterate it again today. The Guyana has signed on to the UN Treaty of Anti-Corruption. That is the only legally binding treaty that the UN has. It's legally binding. And it expects that countries who have signed on to that particular treaty to do certain things and to respond to allegations of corruption in a certain way. But what did we see once they got into government? One, they disbanded SARA completely, the State Asset Recovery Agency.
Yes.
Then they have the Public Procurement Commission that they're refusing to actually install. They have the names. The names were agreed to by all members of parliament, but yet still they have not yet been installed by the president. Why is that so? Because somebody is doing their own thing where contracts are concerned and don't want the oversight. The vice president is there sitting at his press conference talking about the Integrity Commission. The Integrity Commission has no teeth. The Integrity Commission has no teeth. They don't have the ability to do what it needs to do if there's actually allegations of corruption. And so holding on past the Integrity Commission means nothing in this respect. And so what we will call for, one, is that the Public Procurement Commission be installed, and that Irfaan Ali do the right thing and send Jack Deo packing and have a proper independent investigation into this matter.
That's a whole lot of information that you've given us. Sound information, intelligent information, because what we have seen here, I think also when the president was asked about this whole matter about the Vice News, he was like in support of Mr. Jack Deo doing what he did and saying that Jack Deo will not go anywhere. In my paraphrasing. But it's still like the president is condoning this thing. Saying that the president doesn't want Jack Deo to go anywhere. What other pressure to bear to force the government to turn the right way and to do the honorable thing?
But I think, as you rightfully said, pressure. They will not do the right thing on their own because that is not how they're wired. I think they're wired to do exactly what they're doing, and everybody knows what Jagger does. I don't think the name Sue is news to the PVP. I think they know who he is, and they know what he does, and they know what he's about. And the people have to decide whether or not they're going to allow the country to go down this path. It is up to the people. The people have the power. People are the majority. The government isn't. But if the people decide to sit down and allow this to pass, then we're basically saying that it's okay for Jagger to be corrupt. It's okay for the government to be run in this particular manner, and that we will just continue in this particular way. And I don't think that is the way we want to go, and that the people should expect anything better of the PVP unless they stand up and say enough is enough. So it is up to the people.
Have you seen other bodies coming out and calling for the president to go, other than the coalition and other persons in the diaspora calling for the president to go? Have you ever seen any other local bodies, civil society, calling for the president to resign, to ask Mr. Jagger to resign?
Sadly, I have not seen. What I have seen, a lot of persons suggesting support of Barra Jagger. I'm not seeing a lot of the civil society organizations making any statements, and it is actually very sad. And I'm hoping that they would recognize that this is where your voices need to be heard. It's either we want a corrupt country or we don't. It's either we want allegations of corruption to be investigated or we don't. We can't have it both ways. It's either we want a country that will thrive on good governance or we don't. If it is that we want good governance, if you want a democracy that is thriving and on the tenets of true and real governance, then we have to ensure that any allegations of corruption are investigated totally fairly and let the chips fall where they may.
Before you go, Madam MP, it seems to us that the government is trying all sorts of tricks to let us lose our focus from this big issue with Sugate. Now we have seen that they have a commission of inquiry into the elections matters now coming to bear in power with a petition that is now going to be heard next month. What are your thoughts? Is it another tactics of the government to let us lose our focus and go on this petition, this charade?
Yes, you are actually very correct on that. It's a lot of games that they're trying to play with the population. The more information they try to put out, they're hoping that it swallows the actual information that we receive from Vice News, but I don't think it will. The elections petition, as you rightfully said, is in before the courts, and as far as I'm aware, no COI could ever overshadow that petition, and should be able to overshadow that petition. I don't know how it is that a government who is party to the issues of what happened during the election can by itself decide to set up a COI to look into what happened during the election. I don't think that is how it works. If you're dealing with looking at what happened during 2020 elections, everybody wants to know what happened. I want to know the truth behind what happened. But you have to do it in a way where everybody is involved, everybody's at the table and going through it together. The people can't decide that they're deciding who will be the commissioners, who is going to be the commissioners on this COI. I don't think that the opposition will agree with it, and civil society will not, because the government has a role in whether or not the COI ends up in a particular direction. What decisions will they make? What recommendations will they give? And that has to be in a manner that is inclusive and a manner that everybody's on board and would agree with whatever is the result. And the fact that there's a petition in court suggests that the COI is not necessarily irrelevant, that the petition alone should go.
All right, thank you, MP. Thank you. And that's the protesters there. They're 1 hour protest every day. The protest will happen here every day for 1 hour. And we invite you to come out.
Good evening, viewers. Good evening, and welcome to this Nation Watch Marathon. My name is Elson Lowe. You guys, viewers who watch regularly on our programs, will notice that
On Saturday nights, we usually have the lowdown. So I say start your Saturday on a high with Elson Low. But this time around, we've got a Nation Watch marathon. We've started at 4 o'clock this afternoon. We're running all the way through until 8 o'clock. Why? Because this is a critical time in our country's history. We've seen really massive allegations come out. We've seen some of the terrible governance on the PPP come out, and it is really a time when we need to come together as Guyanese, come together, civil society, and really press for change, press for investigations, press for a different direction for the country. So we've got a marathon, and this is the closing, this is the last lap, this is the anchor leg of the relay tonight from 7 to 8. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us. Please share the link, folks. Share that link, share the link. Let's give everyone an opportunity to be here tonight, to hear from our guest tonight, to hear a few more remarks about Sugate. Folks, we've had an interesting couple of weeks, haven't we? Sugate is a scandal of monstrous proportions, the type that we haven't seen in Ghana for some time. I would even argue that we haven't seen in the Caribbean for some time. When is the last time that you had someone come out with such explicit and specific allegations regarding a senior government official, even in the Caribbean? And this is not allegations for one project or two projects, but multiple projects. Really, it's allegations of an entire system of corruption. So we're going to chat a little bit about Sugate later on in the program. For now, we're actually going to go into an interview in a few minutes with the regional chairman for region number 10, Deron Adams. He's going to give us a sense of how things are going in the region, what really needs to change, how that can be improved, and how region 10 can be moved forward. We know that that is a region with great natural resources, great people, lots of tourism potential, a really nice part of Guyana. So we're going to chat for a bit with him about that. Then we'll close off with some more of the details on Sugate. I'll try to give you viewers in the last part of the show an understanding of how these types of middlemen exercises actually take place, how this system works, and why there's so many things that we have to be worried about hearing what's going on with Sugate. That's why we're calling for an investigation to find out the truth, because it is deeply, deeply alarming. Viewers, share the link, share the link. It's Saturday night again. We're happy to be here with you. Share the link. Let's get everyone in. Let's get everyone in who usually views the show. Let's give everyone an opportunity to see what's going on tonight. We've got Sugate. We've got region number 10. We're gonna have a fiery show as we always have here on Saturday nights. This is going to be a Nation Watch marathon. This is the last leg of that marathon. If you've been here from the start of the marathon to right now, we thank you. We applaud you. We thank you, and we hope that you've been informed, entertained, persuaded about these critical issues during such a critical time. Sugate, serious allegations, a call for an investigation. This is what it's all about, ladies and gentlemen. So we're going to bring on the chairman of region number 10, Mr. Deron Adams. We're going to have a chat with him about how things are going in the region and some changes that really are necessary. Mr. Adams, it's good to have you on tonight.
Thank you, Elson. It's an honor to be on your program.
Are you
hearing me clear, please?
Yes, we're hearing you now. We're hearing you now.
Right.
Great. So thanks first of all,
Right.
and if
So
you could, sure, if you could give viewers just a quick introduction, where you're from originally, just a quick introduction. I imagine you spent a lot of time in Region 10, but I don't know if that's where you're from. So maybe you can give a quick introduction.
Well, I'm born and bred, resident of Region 10. Lived all my life here. And, you know, when you desire to see the best for your community and your region, you make that bold step out to represent those people who, voiceless, and those who are treated unfair. And so we have been working here in the region trying to ensure that representation is made at every level for the people across the length and breadth of this vast region. The challenges are great. Those things that we enjoyed under the period 2015 to 2020, I must say we are no longer enjoying that. And I heard the vice chairman for region number 4 spoke just now. And I want to share briefly with him, because we are in the same boat, that this government has no respect for democratic principles, and they do not respect the spirit of the Constitution. If they did, they would do just what the APNU AFC did, which would allow the elected element and component of the council to determine their priorities and have that as overriding priorities. And even if central government wanted to add, or add their voice or input, then of course I councils would accommodate them. But central government, under this period that we're speaking, they have largely been ignoring the wishes and the representation made by the elected component of the council, and they have been determining their own priorities. And that is a sad reality. Just like in Region 4, we are facing the same here in Region 10.
Yeah, absolutely. As my previous host, Randy, mentioned, it's important that we have power not centralized, that we are able to listen to the different regions and the representatives in those regions. Of course, you, Ms. Adams, you guys will have the best information because you're there, you're on the ground, you're speaking to people every day. So you'll be able to give the best perspective when it comes to what some regional priorities should be, and how funds should be allocated, what will do the most good. So it's sad to hear that that you're not getting that type of support, you're not getting that type of partnership from the government. Sad, but perhaps not surprising.
Yeah, well, Elson, every year from the time the 9th Council was elected to serve, the RDC and the councillors, and yours truly, we have been working diligently to ensure that the submissions that are made are, is in keeping with the consultations that we would have had with our people. So currently, while we are executing parts of the 2022 budget, we're actually doing our community awareness program, interacting, consulting with residents, so that we can start the process for 2023. And so we do hope that this time round, that the things and the ideas that flow from the consultation that we would have had from communities across the region, once they are recorded, that those wishes would be respected, and we wouldn't see somebody in the local government ministry, where it's taken out the RDC building, which has lost all integrity. We have electrical wires and sewage backing up in the building. It was submitted in last year's budget. It was removed from the budget. We want to see our synthetic track completed. We want to see businesses, the Linden Enterprise Network, and I will speak of that shortly. But we don't want only to see this government come to the region with political handouts and cash distribution. Those things, I mind you, it's well documented, and we have documented the many persons in the region who have not benefited from it because it was friends, families, and cronies siphoning off the monies. And of course, you would have seen the audits that came out that showed that there was mismanagement. So it is well documented. And I want to say to the people of Region 10 and by Guyana on a whole, that it is unsustainable. So do not be fooled by these cash grants and these hampers. I say to you, take it, yes. But understand that those things are unsustainable, and it cannot be passed on to the next generation. Contrast that with how the coalition empowered our people. They created jobs. They ensured that there was decentralized services. They ensured that organizations such as the Linden Enterprise Network, that 150 million was injected to support small business. So I need to make it clear to the viewership that the current administration political system of giving people handouts cannot be described as empowerment. Because it doesn't empower our people, right? The beneficiaries it doesn't empower them with the skills they need. They will not be able to sustain themselves and their family. In fact, it robs our people, especially our youth, of the necessary aspirations to learn value addition skills, etc., that would last for a lifetime. That is what we want in this region. That is what we want for the entire country. We want programs that can be passed on to the new generation of young people. And that is what the coalition offered. This culture of handouts condemns our people, Elson, to a process of perpetual or permanent dependency on government. And it practically places them in a place where, you know, they will not come out of poverty. That has to stop. We believe, like the coalition and the programs that came out from the coalition, that empowering them with the necessary competence to make their own wealth is what is needed. And so people listening on the live understand that this administration, their interest is not the development of this region, especially Region 10. They are upset because Region 10 votes overwhelmingly for the APNU. And so what they are doing is distributing handouts. And because they don't have much supporters here, when the CDC sends the hampers to the region, you find that they're giving it out to maybe 10 people, and the other 290 is left to rotten at the bottom of a political activist house, where it's getting Weeble and all of these things, and denying innocent people access to these resources, which, by the way, is their very own taxpayers' dollars. So I just wanted to make that point to you, to let you know that the challenges are great here. This region continues to be targeted strategically and intentionally. The Minister of Labor was upset that he visited the region and he was boasting of 184 people being employed. And I said to him that I'm not impressed, because you would have fired people from their permanent jobs, those who are working at the St. John's Ambulance Brigade, taking home $45 million yearly. You fire those from the National Data Management Agency. When you combine their salary over a 5-year period, is $96 million taken out from the region. You fire persons from the Linden Enterprise Network. And so job creation, in my opinion, and what the people have been saying to us here in the region, is that it must be a clear and well-structured program of endeavor in our region, and not just a handout, a flippant handout, right? Under the coalition, we would have trained persons in ICT under Sandra Granger, First Lady. And the Board of Industrial Training was on that program. And as soon as they finished their training, 120 of them were employed. We found jobs for them. We trained persons in the patient care assistant program under Valda Lawrence. And as soon as they completed that training, they were employed at the Linden Hospital Complex and health centers across the region. That is what is required now. Okay, so we do not want temporary jobs. Our people here do not have temporary needs. In fact,
I like that. That's good. With no temporary jobs, because the needs are not temporary needs. I think that's a good one. Temporary jobs only satisfy temporary needs. That's quite correct.
Right, and so we right now at the RDC, we have persons, young people who they boast about giving these temporary jobs, that the people are sitting there all day. They don't have any profile portfolio. They don't know what they're about. So taxpayers' money are just going and you know, unlike with the coalition, we set up the Bertram Collins College of the Public Service.
Yes, absolutely.
They came, they were trained, Amerindians from in the Berbice River and the Demerara River, and then they received employment at the RDC and other government agencies. You must have a plan in place for transition. So you have people working there. One guy came to the RDC. He said he submitted his work, his documents. They sent him at the hospital to be a porter, and the guy was upset. In a rhymer, rather than allow the people who they want to, you know, play politics with, because mind you, this project for this temporary job did not come through the RDC council, where the elected officials who have hand firm grip on their constituents, could have been able to work with them and let them know what are the job description, etc. It was a political hack who was dealing with the appointments, dealing with the applications, which is dangerous. And so many of the young people are now, surprised. They sit there all day, they do nothing. Many of them in Araima were told that they have to work in Linden. They reached out to me. How do these people expect me to travel, and travel back to Araima? There's no accommodation. And so everything is in confusion right now, chaos.
Yeah, definitely. It sounds quite chaotic. I completely agree. And one of the things that I think is really important to ask, the question that's really important to ask is, do we really think that we're going to leave Guyanese with a $40,000 a month and that's going to be their sustained living when we have an oil and gas sector that is booming, when we have a country where we're going to see jobs come in? Is that really what we're going to do? Because some of the starting salaries in the oil and gas sector, you're talking about $400,000. And it strikes me, I don't know if you share the same opinion, but I think our young people would much prefer to get a $400,000 regular job than a $40,000 job where there's no real career advancement. That's all you're making.
Well, of course, we won't get the opportunity to access that amount of money because you have deals being orchestrated, contracts and stuff happening, from no other person than our VC. So,
this is why we're calling for an investigation. We want to make sure that the nation's funds are being used in the way that they should be used. The nation's resources broadly are being used and managed the way it should be managed, and not that the criterion for someone to get support is friendship, or even worse, a payment. That is the furthest thing from acceptable. And I think what to tie back to what you're saying, I think that if that's the way that the country is being run, we need to find this out. If that's the way the country is being run, then it is easy to understand why you're not getting the types of high-paying jobs that you'd like to see in places like Linden and so on. Of course, Linden has a proud industrial history, and so you would imagine that some elements of the oil and gas sector would be developed in the area, that you'd see those types of high-paying jobs brought to the area to build on that industrial history. You've got training programs already existing in the area. I believe there's a Linden Technical Institute in the area as well.
But let me just say this. None of the projects, I believe, listen, when a government does something good, you support that initiative and you move it forward. So if, for example, the LTI, a dormitory is being built right now in Region 10, that happened under the coalition, that building has been stalled for the past 2 years. So the children from the Berbice River and the Demerara River, under the coalition, they wanted to ensure that under the TVET program, they could have come to the LTI, studied overnight, and they go home on weekends. That building has been stalled. Right now, the nursing program happening in regions 1 to 9, but Region 10 was told plainly, we will not be doing any training with nurses in Region 10. So if that is not targeting this region strategically and intentionally, when you boast of permanent jobs, these are the permanent jobs, that we want. We don't want temporary jobs. Why is it that a nurse who would have invested hundreds of thousands of dollars purchasing medical books, and if you know of medical books, you know that they're costly. Principles of anatomy and physiology, medical, surgical nursing. Our nurses in training purchased all of the gears, and then after 3 months, a letter came that, you know what, we're not going to continue the program in Region 10. The only region. Mind you, there is no clause in the contract that these nurses sign that say that they have to work in Region 10. You can train them and work in Region 4. In fact, a lot of our nurses went from Linden Hospital and they were working at Lillian Dahl at the COVID hospital. Why are you denying them the opportunity to train? And again, backdrop that because of the distasteful comments of Rudy Small and the slashing of our nurses' salary, who protested him from $111,000 to $300 Guyana dollars, many of them are now leaving and working in the UK. In the case of Len, the Linden Enterprise Network. Under the coalition, $150 million was pumped in to support small business. It is well understood, Elson, that in any economy, the government and the private sector are drivers of economic growth and job creation. We know that. Entrepreneurship is a powerful tool for creating employment. I'm an entrepreneur. I pioneer a new product, new services, and you know, we're getting the support. However, for us to achieve the goals that we want to, we believe that the quality of the relationship between the government and the private sector must be improved. I'm surprised that the private sector in town is so quiet that a board, Linden Enterprise Network, has not been established 2 years after this government has taken office to give support to small businesses. Why are you not empowering? Why are you not,
2 years is a long time.
Board?
2 years is a long time.
Exactly. Jobs are created. It's simple. This thing is simple. Jobs are created through ideas, innovation, in creativity, investment into those very ideas. And so it is imperative that if we hope to see increased sustainability and the survival of small, medium-sized businesses in this region, that an agency such as LEN, that the government needs to understand that it is critical in providing the localized business support services to these businesses that want the help. When I speak of the services, Elson, I was benefited from Small Business Bureau, so I understand the importance of in finance. So affordable loans, the technical support and coaching and guidance that comes from an organization such as LEN, the establishment of the strategic hand-holding initiatives to guide small businesses for permanent jobs. How could an agency such as LEN, an identified microcredit institution in its present weak state, hope to support businesses in this region? And this government, 2 years after, despite they would have done their studies, they received their report, has not seen it fitting to implement and activate two critical boards. The Linden Hospital Complex, and that is why Rudy Small is making unilateral decisions and walking with his gun, it's alleged, in his waist, and treating nurses unfairly, and the conditions in the hospital. 80% of the drugs are drug shortages. The beds, the people can't even, the nurses can't even get the beds down to do CPR. They need, what is happening at that facility? And so these are the things we want government to focus on, right? You can't just leave a facility like LEN handicapped, right? We need them to give support to these agencies. It's unacceptable in the people of this region's eyes, especially the business community, that they have not reactivated this important institution, right?
I'd say two things on the back of that. One, I think that you've mentioned quite a few incidents that, again, similar to what we're talking about with the VP, need investigations so that we can find out what's going on, and so that if there's misconduct, those engaging in it we can see change. We don't want to see those types of difficult circumstances perpetuated on our staff, whether it's healthcare, whether it's other areas. We want to see change. So that's why we're calling around the clock. We're calling for investigation. We're calling for change. We're calling for a different environment going forward, an environment that does not tolerate these types of things. The other thing I would say, and I'm sure you would agree, is it's mighty difficult to start a business if you're not going to get finance, if you're not going to get access to funds, if you're not going to get access to funds at a reasonable rate, you borrow at a reasonable rate, it's going to be very difficult to start businesses. And if it's difficult to start businesses, it's difficult to generate jobs in Linden. And if it's difficult to generate jobs in Linden, what do you have? You have a high unemployment rate, and you have a painful living situation. And all of this, let us remind our viewers, and you might want to comment on this, all of this is happening. This lack of funding for entrepreneurship, this lack of funding for Linden, all of this is happening within the context, within a time of extreme cost of living pain. cost of living pain. This is a hard time. And what is happening is that we're seeing a reduction in the support. We're not seeing the type of growth of support to match the growth of the GDP, to match the growth of the government budget. You know, we're not seeing that that refocus on small businesses and on job creation in a place like Linden, where it is really important. So viewers, this is doubly alarming. If you know, in normal times it would have been alarming not to have Len be reaching the level that it's supposed to be reaching, but now it's even worse.
Yeah, and Elson, let me say this: it is not that this is the talent basket for the country. Why is it that this administration has done practically nothing for the people of this region other than deliver handouts, hampers, and cash grant? Somebody turns up at the Watuka house. They said that, you know, they want feed for the chicken. Oh, get a person 250,000. There is no structure. There is no program to monitor whether this person was actually telling the truth. And when we do our investigation, because we visited West Watuka, this money is falling into the hands of cronies and friends of the administration. Now you look at, and I'm happy that former Minister Patterson would have highlighted this. When it comes to economic activity and empowering and boosting the region's profile, Region 10, as you know, and the coalition government recognized this, it is well positioned geographically to become a major center for business and finance. That is why in 2019, David Patterson ensured that the Linden to Mabura Road project is one project that he submitted, and it received a favorable response from the UK. Of interest is that in 2019, the PPP informed the UK team that the Linden to Mabura Road project was not a priority project for them and their party. And if they were successful in the upcoming elections, that they were going to cancel the project. The response then by the UK was unequivocal. If you cancel the project, we will cancel our funding. And that is how the road is now going to start, because they were not going to get the monies to take it to disguise it and siphon it off. They had to show, and thanks to David Patterson and the APNU AFC, that there was a structure, that they had developed a program, a plan to ensure. In fact, the PPP has already removed the bridge from the budget.
I see.
And so it was after the UK pressured them, you're now being told that they will put the bridge back on. The studies we have report that the road and of course the new bridge across the Demerara River here at Linden would help to propel this region into becoming a real power region. And so we call on the government to ensure that in 2023, that the Mackenzie Wismar Bridge, the RDC building, and the many other projects, the synthetic track is placed back high into the budget, high on the agenda. The critical component, that Wismar Mackenzie Bridge, and if you know Linden, the traffic build-up on the morning, that infrastructure will complement the proposed work that the coalition would have pushed for under Patterson. In addition, I believe with the increased activity there, we will be able to see more cash flow coming into our region. So that the expected increase demands the better infrastructure. And I think we have to pressure them.
Linden is very centrally located, if you think about it, in the context of Guyana as a whole. And as a result, it has real potential to be a transport hub. I completely agree with you.
Correct.
But in order to be a transport hub, you have to have the right road facilities, road infrastructure, the right bridge. You have to invest in the community towards growing the economics of the community, towards growing income, towards making things better. What you're indicating is that there's not investment to make things better. It's just, you know, if they're forced to do something, they do something. And on the one hand, and on the other, if they can give out a few grants to try and cool people off, that's the strategy.
That is it. And I believe that that bridge and that road must be thankful to the coalition. It will have a powerful impact, Elson, on our region. When you're dealing with a country like Brazil that has a large money supply, and there who are willing to invest here in Region 10 and Guyana. We're connected well. We're well placed to a region like Region 10 that has goods and services, for example, to sell. Our people are going to reap the benefits. Employment, they're going to get jobs. And it will be a program that will ensure that our people are taken out of poverty. We must support, and we call on the government. We know they did not want it, but both had already gone far. They couldn't turn it back. The UK pressured them, and so we're happy that we will see this project now coming to Region 10, and we're happy with that.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I couldn't agree more that there needs to be so much infrastructure development. You mentioned Brazil, and that is a key area where we want to expand trade. We want to expand the connection between the two countries, because that will in of itself generate jobs. That will in of itself generate revenue. You'll see people passing through Linden as they bring goods through. One of the things is, if you look at the history of some of the most prominent cities in the world, those are cities that are along major transportation routes, routes. So that is one way that you can envision Linden really developing and growing, is through being this sort of transportation hub. And so I'm glad to see that a couple of these projects will get off the ground. I'm glad to see that they're going to be moving forward. And of course, we have to press for more of those types of projects rather than having the community be neglected. But given the allegations that surround a certain Sue coming from Vice Media, I don't know if Linden has a Sue, because apparently, or at least that's what's indicated. Apparently, you have to have a Sue to get anything done in this country. That is deeply disturbing. I don't know, does Linden has a Sue hanging around? Maybe y'all can bring in one. But that's apparently what's required.
I think that the most sad thing there is when, and if you listen clearly and you read between the lines, when the VP would have said that Sue deals with the contract end of things and he deals with the government side of things, I think his response right there and then established that they are in some kind of business agreement. And even when you listen to the tape, Sue actually called him boss. So I don't know what the guy at Go Invest, what is his take on that? What is also interesting is the ease with which Sue entered the VP's house. His posture, if you look at the video, indicates that he was expecting Sue.
He knows him well.
I don't believe that just anyone can just walk into the VP's home like that. Come on, unless he is familiar with them, and that is something that persons need to.
Someone from abroad was asking me about what's going on with this Sue situation. What really is going on, and I indicated to them that Sue is a tenant of the VP, and the person held their head. They were they were visibly distressed when they heard that. It is interesting that Sue is making all of these allegations, and Sue is a tenant of the VP, and Sue is welcoming the VP's home.
Sue is comfortable.
Very concerning. What is similar?
No dogs didn't attack Sue or anything.
No, the dogs didn't bark at all. Sue is a regular. And what of course makes the whole thing similarly worrisome is that Sue now goes on to name some specifics. Sue talks about the Amalia Falls Hydro. Sue talks about how expensive it was to get that done. Sue talks about an oil company. Sue is talking about an oil company, having interest in an oil company, and how much he had to pay for that interest. That is very, very disturbing.
And so, Elson, let me say this, because the administration today, they have a tendency to distract you with the obvious while something else is happening behind the scene. And so this action to announce the timing of this commission of inquiry, I believe it's inappropriate. It's an attempt to distract the Guyanese people from all that's happening in the country, the high cost of living, the failing sugar industry with say Narain, the young people who lost their jobs across the country, extrajudicial killing, and of course the hot topic as we're discussing right now that's trending, the Sue. So in attempt, what we want them to do, in fact, is expedite the petition through the courts.
Yeah.
And stop trying to distract and delay and block the matter from being heard. Okay, no commission of inquiry should be given priority over the petition. I believe maybe at GCOM level, while the petition is being heard, a review of what occurred is what is needed as well. No, and not a commission of inquiry, which is merely to distract the nation, as I said, from what's happening in Guyana.
Yeah,
absolutely. And so I firmly believe that a review of by GCOM could highlight what occurred at the 2020 elections. I was privileged to work in the tabulation booth with Jaretta and Danielle, and it will reveal, one, where GCOM was complacent under the watch of Claudette Singh. A lot of things went wrong that we demand to be corrected. And so I believe every right-thinking Guyanese should apply the pressure for the petition to be heard, because it will determine whether the results were proper or improper. And I believe that can see the results being reversed based on the findings, like what happened, I think, when the elections had to be vitiated sometime in the past. So the issues of the voters list, we will continue to, we will let Sue, or we will let the commission of inquiry distract us.
Yes,
the issue of the voters list, we're saying that it needs to be addressed, as well as the voter impersonation that occurred. And so the COI will likely have challenges, I believe, because some of the same people who were aligned to GCOM, who they have before the court, once you have a matter before the court, you cannot speak of that matter at no other forum. So I don't understand.
There's a real question as to whether the COI will have an impact actually on the petition itself. And that is of course really concerning, because we want a fair judicial process. Mr. Darren Adams, Regional Chairman, thank you so much for being on with us. You've really shared, I think, some very good insights, some deep insights. I myself have learned a bit about the region as well, and it is something that I think that we need to continue to speak about, because Linden has tremendous potential to be a growth engine for the country, and we need to not think about it as a place, oh, it needs help, it needs relief, but it is a place where we can have growth. It is a place where we can develop. It is a place that can help to bring the country forward, help us to diversify from the oil and gas industry as well. So thank you so much. We're deeply concerned by some of the issues you mentioned. And thank you for being with us tonight.
Thank you, Elson. Thank you.
All right, and we'll be glad to have you back later on. So that was Mr. Darren Adams, the regional chair for Region 10. He shared with you many insights, things that are concerning the way that Linden, that funding for small businesses is not being properly put forward in Linden, the way that you're actually seeing training and so on not happen in the way that it should happen to facilitate a proper workforce, to facilitate long-term, long-lasting, not temporary jobs, but sustained jobs with higher salaries. Those are the things that are not happening. What you're seeing is a Band-Aid here and there, something that just to try and quiet people down for a minute, but which really does not bring forward the community and the economy of the Linden and the Region 10 area. Whereas there is significant potential for that area to really perform well and be one of the shining stars of the Guyanese economy. So thank you very much to Ms. Adams there. That was an interesting interview. We, of course, touched quite a bit on Mr. Sue and the allegations connected to Suegate, and to what has happened with the Vice Media report on this topic. Now, one thing that I wanted to share just as we wrap up here this evening, ladies and gentlemen, is this. It is important to understand how it is that middlemen around the world who are engaged in corrupt practices actually operate, and the real negatives of this. Because we may think, oh, Sue is connected to one particular business person from another country, or they're someone, and as a result, they're able to get access to the highest levels of government. But what we may not quite realize is that for that same project that Sue is talking to that businessman about, let's say that it's a hotel, as in the Vice Media report, Sue is probably talking to 3 or 4 other people if these allegations are true. And what that really means is that Sue and middlemen like Sue, again, we need to see this investigated, but Sue and middlemen like Sue will be going around trying to get the highest bribe. And whoever it is that's willing to pay the highest bribe, that will be the person that will get access to that government support. So it is not just that, oh, there's a bribe involved. It is not just a bribe. That bribe, the bribes that are accepted if these allegations are true, would have been the highest bribes. Do you understand, ladies and gentlemen? It's not just that bribes are paid, it's the highest bribes are paid. Folks, this is how the country would really suffer when it comes to these infrastructure projects, when it comes to large scale investments. Because what's going to happen is whoever it is that's paying the highest bribe, they might be the one that's offering the lowest quality service, as an example. And if you pay that high bribe, can the government come down on them if they don't perform well, don't perform properly, and national projects don't actually succeed? Now, of course, we need to see investigations as to the things that were mentioned by Sue. We'd love to see investigations into many national projects that have not succeeded or not met the what was expected of them. And viewers, you can take a second and think for yourself which projects you think have not met expectations. And ask yourself this question, which is why we need investigation to get answers to these things. You can ask yourself this question: is the reason that these projects did not succeed because a bribe was involved? Number one. And number two, was it that this is the highest bribe that was accepted, the largest bribe? They went through a bidding process of their own corrupt corporations to produce the highest bribe, and that's the one that gets passed over. So these types of middlemen arrangements are not exclusive to one country, not exclusive to the developing world even. It's something that you see a lot, and unfortunately, it has massive implications for the development of countries. It has massive implications for various infrastructure projects, and it can really show you why a country isn't moving forward. Of course, we need to see an investigation, but it is possible that an investigation would reveal that the reason that Amalia Falls never succeeded, the reason that Amalia Falls was never brought to light, the reason that we've had so much trouble with this project and we haven't abandoned it and moved towards cheaper alternatives is because a certain person all this time has been taking bribes. We need to see an investigation, ladies and gentlemen. We need to see civil society join in the call for an investigation. We need to see the international community, multilateral agencies join in the call for an investigation, because otherwise this cloud will hang over the investment climate in Guyana. This cloud will hang over the economy. It will hang over all of our national development projects. We cannot allow this to happen. Viewers, thank you for joining us here on this marathon, this Nation Watch marathon. We can only applaud those of you who were here from the start. We can only say to those of you here at the end, thank you so much. We hope that you've been educated, persuaded, entertained. It's been as always, good to be with you here. And we will see you on Tuesday for the lowdown and on Saturday for the lowdown. So thank you, and you have a good rest of the evening.